What if the one of the most legendary pirate Yonko in One Piece was reborn as the most unpredictable ninja in Konoha? What if Naruto Uzumaki had the memories, power, and techniques of red-haired Shanks? Today, we're diving into a story that will completely change how you see the #1 hyperactive knucklehead ninja. This isn't your typical Naruto. This is a warrior who wields both chakra and haki, who can use divine departure and Rasengan in the same battle. Get ready for the most epic transformation you've ever seen.
The sky over Laugh Tale bled crimson as Shanks stood alone against the combined might of the world government's ultimate weapon. His crew had already fallen back, carrying the wounded to safety at his insistence. Blood trailed down his face, his legendary scarred eye barely visible beneath the crimson streaks. His black cape fluttered in the violent wind as he faced the 5 admirals and the Gorosei themselves. "So this is how it ends," Shanks said, his voice carrying across the battlefield despite its softness. He smiled, that same disarming smile that had won him allies across the Grand Line for decades. Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, his magma fist already forming, glared at the Yonko. "Red-haired Shanks, your interference ends today." Shanks chuckled, raising his sword griffin one last time. "The new era is already here, Sakazuki. You just refuse to see it." His blade gleamed with the black sheen of advanced armament haki, crackling with the energy of Conqueror's spirit. "They've already found the One Piece. Luffy has already changed everything." The battle that followed shook the very foundation of the island. Shanks moved like lightning, his sword a blur of destruction that sent shockwaves through the air. Even outnumbered, the Yonko demonstrated why he had stood at the pinnacle of the pirate world. One by one, the admirals fell back, their powers seeming insignificant against the overwhelming might of Shanks's haki. The sky split as invisible forces clashed, and the ocean itself seemed to bow to the pressure of their combat. But even legends have their limits. 7 hours into the battle, Shanks stood surrounded by the unconscious forms of 3 admirals and 2 of the Gorosei. His breathing came heavy, his legendary sword arm finally showing signs of fatigue. "You've earned your place in history, Red Hair," the oldest Gorosei acknowledged, blood dripping from a cut across his chest. "But your time is over." Shanks smiled through blood-stained teeth. "My time? Perhaps, but not the era I helped usher in." With his final reserves of strength, Shanks unleashed his ultimate technique, divine departure. His body erupted with haki so intense it manifested as visible red lightning crackling across his form. The sky darkened completely, and for a moment, even the remaining world government forces fell to their knees under the overwhelming pressure. "Tell Luffy," Shanks whispered, knowing somehow that his words would reach his protege, "I've never regretted betting on him." The explosion that followed could be seen from islands hundreds of miles away, a column of pure haki energy that shot into the heavens, taking most of the island with it. When the light faded and the dust settled, red-haired Shanks was gone, having taken his remaining enemies with him into oblivion. But legends never truly die. In the space between worlds, Shanks's consciousness drifted. He felt no pain, only a strange sense of contentment mixed with curiosity. He had lived without regrets, had shaped the world in his own way. Now he expected the peaceful nothing of death. Instead, he heard a voice, ancient and powerful. "Your will is too strong to be extinguished, warrior. Your story is not yet complete." Before Shanks could respond, he felt himself being pulled through the fabric of reality itself, his essence compressed and transformed. Memories flashed before him. His childhood with the Roger Pirates, meeting Luffy, his years as a Yonko, all preserved but somehow being integrated into something new. Live again, but in a world that needs your strength differently. In Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, chaos reigned as the 9-tailed fox rampaged through the streets. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice alongside his wife Kushina Uzumaki to seal the beast into their newborn son. But as the sealing jutsu reached completion, something unprecedented occurred. The infant's sparse blonde hair suddenly deepened to a vibrant crimson, and for just a moment, His newborn eyes opened with a clarity and awareness that should have been impossible. Minato noticed it in his final moments, a flicker of recognition, of understanding in his son's eyes. Then, with his last breath, he completed the seal, binding the nine tails to the child who would be known as Naruto Uzumaki. As both parents fell, their life force spent, the third Hokage rushed to collect the crying infant. He paused, surprised by the child's appearance. Red hair, like his mother. Hiruzen Sarutobi murmured, unaware that this was just the first sign that this child would defy all expectations. Inside the infant's developing mind, the consciousness that had once belonged to Shanks settled in, merging with the new life while maintaining its core identity. Unlike the sealed fox demon, this was not a separate entity, but a continuation, the same soul in a new vessel, bringing with it the wisdom, power, and indomitable will of a man who had stood among the strongest in another world. And so began the legend of Naruto Uzumaki, the child of prophecy who carried more than just a tailed beast within him. The villagers of Konoha had expected many things from the Nine Tails Jinchuriki: trouble, danger, perhaps even malice. What they never anticipated was the strange, composed child with vibrant red hair who walked through their streets with an ease that belied his young age. By 6 years old, Naruto Uzumaki had already confounded every caretaker and teacher assigned to him. He never threw tantrums, never sought attention through mischief. Instead, he watched the world around him with knowing eyes, as if he were an adult trapped in a child's body. He's unnerving, one caretaker confided to the third Hokage. Sometimes he looks at you like he can see right through to your soul. Hiruzen had noticed it too. The boy carried himself with unusual dignity, showing respect to those who earned it, while remaining remarkably unfazed by the cold shoulders and whispered insults from villagers. When Naruto entered the academy at age 7, the mysteries only deepened. Today we'll be practicing basic kunai throwing, Iruka announced to his class of beginners. Remember, this is just to get familiar with the weight and feel. Don't expect to hit the targets yet. Most children fumbled with the unfamiliar weapons, some nearly hurting themselves. But when Naruto's turn came, he stepped forward with a relaxed posture that immediately caught Iruka's attention. Naruto held the kunai between his fingers, testing its balance with a practiced touch. Then, with a fluid motion that seemed impossibly refined, he released the weapon. It struck the center of the target with a solid thunk, followed by 4 more in rapid succession, each landing perfectly. The class fell silent. Naruto, Iruka said carefully, have you practiced this before? The red-haired boy smiled, a disarming, charismatic expression that seemed far too mature for his young face. No, Iruka-sensei, but I understand the principle. It's about intent and follow-through, isn't it? Just like any weapon. Any weapon, Iruka repeated, puzzled. This is likely your first time handling weapons at all. Naruto's smile never faltered, but something flickered in his eyes, a brief shadow of memories from a different life. I suppose you're right. Must be beginner's luck. But it wasn't luck, as became increasingly evident in the following weeks. Whatever physical activity the academy introduced, throwing, taijutsu basics, even chakra control exercises, Naruto displayed an intuitive mastery that left his instructors baffled. It wasn't that he was trying to show off. If anything, he seemed to deliberately hold back, performing just well enough to excel without drawing too much attention. But there was something in the way he moved, in his inherent understanding of combat principles, that couldn't be hidden. He moves like a seasoned fighter adjusting to a new body, Mizuki once commented to Iruka. It's almost like he's relearning rather than learning for the first time. The most revealing moments came during spars. When paired against other students, Naruto demonstrated a natural ability to read his opponent's intentions, dodging attacks before they were fully launched, countering with precise movements that used minimal effort for maximum effect. Enough, Naruto, Iruka called during one such match, where the red-haired boy had effortlessly sidestepped every attack from one of the clan-trained students. You've made your point. Naruto nodded respectfully and stepped back, offering a hand to his frustrated opponent. Good match. Your form is strong, but you telegraph your moves with your eyes. The other students often didn't know how to react to Naruto. He wasn't boastful like some of the clan children, nor was he attention-seeking. He carried himself with a laid-back confidence that somehow never came across as arrogance. When he spoke, which wasn't often, others tended to listen, not because he demanded attention, but because his words often carried unexpected wisdom. "You're not taking this seriously enough," Sasuke Uchiha confronted him one day after Naruto had easily deflected his attacks during training. "Fight me properly." Naruto regarded the last Uchiha with a considering look. "There's more to strength than just fighting, Sasuke. Sometimes the greatest power is knowing when not to use your full strength." "That sounds like an excuse," Sasuke retorted. Naruto smiled, that same disarming smile that somehow made him seem decades older. "Tell me, what are you fighting for? What drives you?" "To avenge my clan, to kill a certain man," Sasuke answered without hesitation. "And after that?" The question caught Sasuke off guard. "What do you mean after? After you've killed this man? What then? What will give your life purpose?" Sasuke had no answer, and for the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. Naruto placed a friendly hand on the Uchiha's shoulder. "Find something to live for, not just something to kill for. That's where true strength comes from." He walked away, leaving Sasuke staring after him in confusion, and the hidden Anbu, who monitored Naruto in complete bewilderment. What kind of child spoke like that? As graduation approached, Naruto's academic performance remained solid but unremarkable, almost deliberately so. He answered questions when called upon, but never volunteered information. His written exam scores were good, but not exceptional. It was as if he were passing through the academy as efficiently as possible, without drawing undue attention. The only time instructors saw true passion from him was during an unexpected moment when Iruka brought a wooden practice sword to class for a cultural lesson on samurai traditions. "May I?" Naruto had asked, eyes fixed on the wooden blade with unusual intensity. Iruka, curious, handed it over. What followed stunned everyone present. Naruto's entire demeanor transformed as his hands wrapped around the hilt. His stance shifted into something entirely foreign to shinobi combat. Wide, grounded, powerfully balanced. He moved through a series of forms that none of the instructors recognized, the wooden blade singing through the air with precision that should have been impossible for a child. For just a moment, the classroom seemed to darken as an invisible pressure emanated from the red-haired boy. Several students later claimed they felt difficulty breathing, though Iruka reported no such phenomenon in his official account. When Naruto finished and returned the practice sword, his expression held a mixture of satisfaction and melancholy. "Where did you learn that?" Iruka asked, unable to hide his astonishment. "Just something I dreamed once," Naruto replied with that enigmatic smile. "About a different kind of warrior." The day before graduation, the third Hokage summoned Naruto to his office. The old leader studied the young boy carefully, noting how the red-haired child sat with perfect composure, entirely comfortable in the presence of the village's most powerful figure. "Your instructors tell me you're quite the mystery, Naruto," Hiruzen began. "I don't mean to be, Lord Third," Naruto replied with genuine respect. "They say you show capabilities far beyond your years, yet you seem determined not to stand out too much. I wonder why that is." Naruto considered his answer carefully. The memories and instincts of his previous life, of being Shanks, guided him toward caution. He understood the politics of power all too well from his years as a Yonko. "Sometimes it's better to be underestimated," he answered truthfully. "And I don't need acknowledgement from everyone, just from those who matter." Hiruzen's eyebrows rose. A surprisingly mature perspective. "Most children your age crave attention," Naruto smiled. "I'm not most children, am I, Lord Third?" The Hokage studied him for a long moment. "No, I suppose you're not. The Nine Tails." "Isn't what makes me different?" Naruto interrupted gently, "though he and I will need to have a conversation eventually." This statement startled the old Hokage more than anything else the boy had said. "You speak as if the Nine Tails is someone you could reason with." Naruto's eyes twinkled with the wisdom of someone who had negotiated with sea kings and emperors in another life. "Everyone can be reasoned with if you understand what drives them, Lord Third. Even demons." As Naruto left the Hokage's office, Hiruzen couldn't shake the feeling that he had just spoken not with a child, but with someone far older and wiser than appearances suggested. The next day, Naruto graduated from the academy, with little fanfare. He performed the required jutsu competently, if not spectacularly, and accepted his headband with a quiet dignity that set him apart from his celebrating peers. As he tied the symbol of Konoha to his forehead, memories of another symbol, a straw hat passed from one pirate king to a future one, flashed through his mind. He smiled to himself, feeling the weight of this new responsibility settling on him as comfortably as his captain's cape once had. A new adventure, he murmured to himself, in a different sea. The classroom buzzed with excitement as newly graduated Genin awaited team assignments. Naruto sat quietly, his red hair standing out among the sea of students. Unlike his previous life as Shanks, where his crew had been chosen family, he now faced being assigned to a team by others. The thought amused him. He, who had once commanded one of the strongest pirate crews in the Grand Line, now waiting to be sorted like a fresh academy student. Iruka entered the room and began announcing teams. The chatter died down as names were called. Team 7, Iruka continued, will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno. Sakura's excited squeal interrupted him momentarily. And Naruto Uzumaki. Your Jonin instructor will be Kakashi Hatake. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly. He had heard of Kakashi, the copy ninja, master of 1,000 jutsu. In his past life, Shanks had always appreciated those who had mastered their craft. This could be interesting. As the teams dispersed to meet their sensei, Team 7 remained waiting. Hours passed and still Kakashi didn't appear. Sasuke brooded by the window, while Sakura alternated between attempting to engage him in conversation and throwing occasional curious glances at Naruto. Unlike his canon counterpart, this Naruto made no childish attempts to prank their tardy sensei. Instead, he sat calmly, eyes closed, seemingly meditating. In reality, he was focusing his awareness, not quite observation haki in this new body, but something similar that he was gradually redeveloping. He's outside, Naruto said suddenly, opening his eyes. Has been for about 20 minutes. Sasuke looked at him skeptically. How would you know that? Before Naruto could answer, the door slid open, revealing a silver-haired Jonin with his headband tilted to cover one eye. Naruto couldn't help but smile at the parallel to his own scarred eye in his previous life. My first impression is... Kakashi paused, his visible eye landing on Naruto with slight surprise. You're an interesting bunch. Meet me on the roof. On the rooftop, Kakashi leaned against the railing. Let's introduce ourselves. Names, likes, dislikes, hobbies, dreams for the future, that sort of thing. Why don't you go first, Sensei? Sakura suggested. Kakashi gave his deliberately vague introduction, revealing almost nothing of substance. When he pointed to Sakura to go next, she gave a typical Genin response, focused primarily on her crush on Sasuke. Sasuke's introduction was dark and determined. I don't particularly like anything. I dislike many things. What I have isn't a dream, because I will make it a reality. I'm going to restore my clan and kill a certain someone. When Naruto's turn came, Kakashi watched him with particular interest. The reports on the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki had been confusing at best. Naruto smiled, that easy, disarming smile that somehow made him seem far older than his years. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I like good sake. He caught himself with a small chuckle. I mean, good food and good company. I dislike needless conflict and those who harm their comrades. My hobby is watching the sunset over the village from the Hokage monument. And my dream, he paused, his eyes taking on a distant quality, is to create a world where people are free to chase their own dreams without fear. Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly. This was not the introduction he had expected from a 12-year-old, much less one with Naruto's background. Well, the Jonin said after a moment, you're certainly unique. Now, we'll have our first mission tomorrow. What kind of mission? Sakura asked eagerly. A survival exercise. Kakashi explained the real Genin test, including the 66% failure rate, then dismissed them with instructions not to eat breakfast. As they dispersed, Kakashi called out, Naruto, a moment. When the others had left, the Jonin studied the red-haired boy carefully. Your file is... interesting. Your instructors couldn't quite figure you out. Naruto met his gaze steadily. Is that a problem, Kakashi-sensei? That depends. The bell test tomorrow is about teamwork. Where do your priorities lie? Naruto's smile returned, genuine and warm. In my experience, a crew, a team, is only as strong as the bonds between its members. Without trust and loyalty, Individual strength means nothing. Kakashi blinked at the unexpectedly profound answer. Your experience? Figure of speech, Naruto replied smoothly. See you tomorrow, sensei, and by the way, he called over his shoulder as he walked away. We'll be eating breakfast. A captain should never let his crew go hungry before a battle. The next morning, Naruto arrived at the training ground with a basket of food. Sasuke and Sakura were already waiting, looking hungry and irritable. Kakashi-sensei said not to eat, Sakura protested as Naruto offered them rice balls. And I'm saying eat, Naruto countered with gentle authority. No good fight was ever won on an empty stomach. Sasuke scoffed but took a rice ball anyway. You think you know better than a jonin? I think I know that deliberately weakening ourselves before a challenge is foolish, Naruto replied. Besides, Kakashi-sensei is testing us. If we can't think for ourselves, what kind of shinobi would we be? This logic was hard to refute, and both teammates ate. As they finished, Naruto's posture subtly changed. He gathered them closer. Listen, I've been thinking about this test. Why would a jonin test fresh genin individually? We're clearly outmatched, but together by the time Kakashi arrived, 3 hours late, Team 7 had formulated a strategy. What followed surprised the copy ninja significantly. Instead of individual attempts to get the bells, he faced a coordinated team that moved with unexpected synchronicity. Sasuke provided distance attacks while Sakura used genjutsu as distraction. But the real shock was Naruto, who moved with a fluidity and tactical awareness that seemed impossible for a genin. There was something in his movement pattern that Kakashi couldn't quite place. It wasn't any shinobi style he recognized. When Naruto charged him directly, Kakashi prepared to counter the frontal assault. But at the last moment, Naruto dropped into a strange stance and released a burst of concentrated energy that, while not exactly killing intent, carried such force that Kakashi hesitated for just a fraction of a second. That moment was enough for Sasuke's wire trap to activate and for Sakura to grab both bells during the distraction. Kakashi stared at the red-haired boy, genuinely startled. What Naruto had just used wasn't chakra, at least not entirely. It had felt like pure willpower manifested, reminiscent of certain forbidden techniques but somehow different. Well, Kakashi said, recovering quickly, it seems you understand the point of the exercise. Teamwork above all. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link, Naruto replied with that same knowing smile. And a crew, a team that doesn't stand together, will fall alone. As they celebrated passing the test, Kakashi pulled Naruto aside. That technique you used, what was it? Naruto looked momentarily contemplative, as if deciding how much to reveal. Just a little something I've been working on, a way to focus intention. That wasn't in your academy records. There are many things that aren't in my records, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto replied cryptically. I look forward to showing you more as we grow as a team. In the weeks that followed, Team 7 undertook the standard D-rank missions assigned to new genin. Throughout these mundane tasks, the team dynamic continued to evolve in ways that puzzled Kakashi. Naruto, rather than competing with Sasuke as expected, seemed to naturally assume a leadership role that even the proud Uchiha gradually came to accept. It wasn't that Naruto ordered them around. Rather, he made suggestions that were so logical and insightful that they were difficult to dismiss. You're good with fire jutsu, Naruto observed to Sasuke during a forest clearing mission. If you direct a controlled burn along this line, while Sakura and I manage the boundaries, we'll complete this in half the time. Sasuke had stared at him suspiciously. How do you know my chakra affinity? Naruto had simply smiled. I pay attention. With Sakura, Naruto's approach was equally effective but different. He neither flirted with her nor dismissed her, instead treating her with a respect that gradually shifted her focus from simply impressing Sasuke to developing her own skills. Your chakra control is exceptional, he told her sincerely after watching her complete a precise cutting technique. With that kind of precision, you could excel at medical ninjutsu or genjutsu if you wanted to specialize. The genuine compliment, delivered without ulterior motive, had made Sakura reconsider her approach to training. She began asking Kakashi for more advanced chakra control exercises, her focus shifting perceptibly. Kakashi watched all this with growing fascination and confusion. Naruto Uzumaki was nothing like the reports had suggested he would be. There was no sign of the Nine-Tails' influence, no indication of the troublemaker he had been told to expect. Instead, this red-haired genin displayed an emotional maturity and tactical understanding that seemed impossible for his age. The turning point came during what should have been a routine C-rank mission, escorting a merchant to a neighboring town. The mission parameters changed dramatically when they were ambushed by a group of missing nin who were after the merchant's cargo. As the 5 attackers surrounded them, Kakashi prepared to intervene. But before he could, Naruto stepped forward, his posture changing subtly. "Stand down," he said to the attackers, his voice suddenly carrying a weight and authority that seemed to fill the clearing. What happened next would be recorded in Kakashi's mission report with considerable uncertainty. The air around Naruto seemed to thicken, and an invisible pressure emanated from the young genin. 2 of the weaker missing nin immediately collapsed unconscious, while the others staggered back, expressions of shock on their faces. "What? What is this?" one of them gasped. Naruto took another step forward, his red hair seeming to float slightly as the strange pressure intensified. "This is your only warning. Leave now." The remaining attackers fled, dragging their unconscious comrades. Naruto turned back to his stunned teammates, his usual easy smile returning as the pressure dissipated. "Sorry about that. Shall we continue the mission?" "Naruto," Kakashi said carefully, "what was that technique?" The red-haired genin shrugged. "Just something I've been developing, a way to project intention." That night, as they camped, Kakashi sent a message back to Konoha requesting information on any bloodline abilities in the Uzumaki clan related to projection of will or intimidation techniques. The response came back negative. No such abilities had been recorded. Meanwhile, Sasuke confronted Naruto directly. "Teach me that technique." Naruto regarded him thoughtfully. "It's not something easily taught, Sasuke. It comes from within, from absolute conviction and a willingness to back up your words with everything you have." "I have conviction," Sasuke insisted. "Your conviction is built on hatred," Naruto replied gently. "This technique requires something different, an unshakable will that isn't consumed by negative emotion." The Uchiha's eyes narrowed. "You sound like you've lived through wars, not like someone who just graduated from the academy." For just a moment, something ancient flickered in Naruto's eyes. Memories of grand battles on the high seas, of standing against admirals and fellow Yonko, of a lifetime of adventures that this body had never experienced. "Perhaps in another life," he said with an enigmatic smile. As they returned to Konoha, Kakashi found himself reporting directly to the 3rd Hokage. "It's not the Nine-Tails chakra," he explained. "I've felt that before. This was different, like pure willpower made manifest, and his tactical understanding, his way of moving, it's like watching a veteran commander in a child's body." Hiruzen puffed thoughtfully on his pipe. "Continue to observe him. If he shows more unusual abilities, report them immediately. But for now, let's see how he develops with proper guidance." What neither of them realized was that Naruto was already developing rapidly, gradually reawakening the abilities that had made Shanks one of the most formidable pirates in his previous world. The foundation of Haki was being rebuilt, adapted to work with this world's chakra system, creating something entirely new. And deep within his mindscape, a certain nine-tailed fox watched with growing interest as his host displayed powers that no normal human should possess, powers that had nothing to do with the demon sealed within him. The announcement of the Chunin exams created a buzz throughout Konoha's Genin teams. For Team 7, however, the news was received with varying reactions. Sasuke saw it as an opportunity to test his growing strength, Sakura felt anxious about the increased danger, and Naruto simply smiled that knowing smile that had become his trademark. "It should be interesting," was all he said when Kakashi informed them of their nomination. As they entered the examination building on the first day, Naruto's acute senses, honed through years as a Yonko in his previous life and gradually reawakening in this one, immediately detected the genjutsu on the second floor. Rather than pointing it out publicly, as many would, he quietly guided his team past the commotion. "But the exam room," Sakura began, "is on the third floor," Naruto finished softly. "That's a genjutsu down there," They're filtering out the less observant teams early. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. How did you know without activating your Sharingan? Naruto tapped his temple with a smile. There are many ways to see beyond the obvious, Sasuke. The Sharingan is just one of them. As they proceeded to the real examination room, they encountered the other rookie teams and various foreign ninjas. Naruto's eyes were drawn immediately to the Sand siblings, particularly Gaara. The red-haired Genin sensed something familiar in the other boy. The presence of a tailed beast, yes, but also something deeper. A profound loneliness and rage that reminded him of certain pirates he'd encountered in his previous life. When Kabuto approached with his offer of information cards, Naruto watched silently as Sasuke requested data on Rock Lee and Gaara. But when Kabuto turned to him with a friendly smile, Naruto felt something off, a deception that his partially reawakened observation haki detected clearly. And you, Naruto? Anyone you're curious about? Naruto met Kabuto's gaze steadily. Actually, I'd like information on you, Kabuto Yakushi. The unexpected request caused a momentary falter in Kabuto's friendly demeanor. Me? I'm not very interesting. I disagree, Naruto replied, his voice pleasant but his eyes sharp. 7 failed exams despite obviously high skill levels? That's quite the contradiction. The tension was broken by the arrival of Ibiki Morino and the start of the written exam. As the strict rules were explained, Naruto settled into his seat with perfect composure, unfazed by the pressure that had many Genin fidgeting nervously. The questions were far beyond typical Genin knowledge, but Naruto didn't bother attempting to cheat. Instead, he sat back and observed the room, his awareness extended to feel the currents of tension and determination around him. This test wasn't about knowledge, it was about information gathering under pressure. As a former pirate captain who had navigated the treacherous politics of the Grand Line, Shanks had excelled at such challenges. When Ibiki presented the final question with its severe conditions, Naruto watched teams crumble around him. He could feel Sakura's hesitation, her concern for their futures. Before she could raise her hand, he placed his own on her desk, a gentle, reassuring touch. Trust me, he said quietly, his confidence unwavering. No worthy challenge comes without risk. When Ibiki finally revealed the true purpose of the test and passed the remaining teams, Naruto merely smiled. Tests of courage and conviction had been common in his previous life. The seas themselves had tested him daily as a pirate. The second exam in the Forest of Death brought new challenges and the first opportunity for Naruto to display more of his reawakening abilities. As Team 7 ventured into the dangerous forest, Naruto's senses remained on high alert. Within hours, they encountered their first opposition, a team from the Rain Village hoping for an easy scroll. What they got instead was a demonstration of why Naruto was no ordinary Genin. As 3 Rain ninjas surrounded Team 7, Naruto stepped forward, his posture shifting subtly into a stance that no Konoha ninja would recognize, the balanced, powerful stance of a master swordsman from another world. We don't need to fight, he offered reasonably. There are plenty of other teams. The Rain ninjas laughed. Look at this kid, trying to act tough. What happened next happened so quickly that even Sasuke's newly awakened Sharingan had trouble following. Naruto moved with a burst of speed that seemed impossible, appearing between 2 of the attackers. No jutsu was used, no chakra visibly expelled, just pure physical prowess honed through countless battles in another lifetime. With precise strikes to pressure points, a technique adapted from his knowledge of swordsmanship, Naruto incapacitated 2 opponents before they could even form hand signs. The third managed to launch a water jutsu, but Naruto simply sidestepped it with a casual grace that seemed almost insulting in its ease. Last chance, Naruto said calmly. The Rain Ninja fled, abandoning his teammates and their scroll. Sasuke stared at Naruto, his Sharingan still active. That wasn't ninjutsu or genjutsu. What was that? Naruto collected the fallen scroll, checking it with disappointment. Not the one we need. And to answer your question, that was just good old-fashioned combat experience. No one moves like that without years of training, Sasuke insisted. Naruto merely smiled his enigmatic smile. Perhaps I'm a fast learner. As they continued through the forest, a more sinister presence found them. The disguised Orochimaru, interested primarily in Sasuke, quickly assessed the team and identified Naruto as a potential obstacle to be removed first. "Let's separate the strong from the weak," the disguised grass ninja said, releasing a wave of killing intent so powerful that Sasuke and Sakura froze in terror, visions of their deaths paralyzing them. Naruto, however, stood unmoved. Having faced down admirals and fellow Yonko in his previous life, this killing intent, while impressive, paled in comparison to what he had both witnessed and generated himself as Shanks. Orochimaru's eyes widened slightly in surprise. Interesting. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is more resilient than expected. With a casual gesture, Naruto placed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder, then Sakura's. Something flowed from him to them. Not chakra exactly, but a steadying presence that broke through their paralysis. "Stay behind me," he said quietly, his voice carrying absolute authority. "You can't possibly," Sasuke began. "Trust me," Naruto interrupted, his eyes never leaving their attacker. What followed was unlike anything the Snake Sanin had anticipated. As he launched his attack, Naruto moved to intercept, channeling what appeared to be chakra, but was actually the beginning manifestation of Conqueror's Haki. The clash created a shockwave that splintered nearby trees. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed with genuine interest. "What are you?" Instead of answering, Naruto pressed forward. His fighting style was unlike any shinobi technique, flowing, adaptive, with an economy of movement that spoke of countless real battles. Though his body lacked the raw physical power of his previous self, his technique was flawless, and his partially awakened haki compensated for the difference in strength. For several minutes, Naruto actually held his own against the disguised Sanin, much to Orochimaru's surprise and growing fascination. It wasn't that Naruto was matching him in raw power, he clearly wasn't, but his combat intuition was extraordinary, allowing him to anticipate and counter attacks that should have been far beyond a genin's ability to handle. "Magnificent," Orochimaru hissed, finally landing a solid hit that sent Naruto crashing through a tree. "Such potential. Perhaps I've been focused on the wrong prize." Before he could pursue this thought, Sasuke entered the fight, emboldened by Naruto's unexpected display of skill. The distraction gave Naruto enough time to recover and formulate a plan. As Orochimaru prepared to deliver his five-element seal to disrupt Naruto's chakra, the red-haired genin unleashed the most complete manifestation of Conqueror's Haki he had managed in this new life. The invisible wave of willpower blasted outward, causing even Orochimaru to momentarily hesitate. That split second was enough for Naruto to grab his teammates and initiate a tactical retreat, not out of fear, but pragmatic recognition of their current limitations. "This isn't a fight we win today," he told them as they fled, his voice steady despite his injuries. "That was no ordinary ninja." "How did you stand against him at all?" Sakura asked, her voice trembling. "That killing intent, I couldn't even move." Naruto's expression was serious. "Let's just say I faced worse and survived." Over the next day, as they recovered and continued their hunt for the correct scroll, Sasuke watched Naruto with new eyes. The casual confidence, the combat prowess, the strange ability to project what felt like pure willpower, none of it aligned with the Academy records or even their months as a team. "You've been holding back," Sasuke finally said as they camped that night. "All this time in every spar, every mission. Why?" Naruto looked into the small fire they had built. "Would it have helped anyone if I hadn't?" "It would have helped me measure my true standing," Sasuke replied bitterly. Naruto smiled, not his usual confident smile, but something gentler. "Measuring yourself against others is a losing game, Sasuke. The only person worth comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday." "That sounds like something from a philosophy book, not a genin," Sasuke countered. Naruto's eyes reflected the dancing flames, momentarily taking on a distant quality that made him seem far older than his years. "Perhaps in another life, I learned lessons the hard way so you wouldn't have to." The preliminary matches that followed the Forest of Death provided the first public display of Naruto's unusual abilities. Paired against Kiba Inuzuka, everyone expected a relatively even match between two physically capable genin. What they witnessed instead was a one-sided demonstration. As Kiba charged with his clan's signature techniques, Naruto simply stood his ground, eyes closed, posture relaxed. At the last possible moment, he sidestepped with fluid grace, allowing Kiba to sail past him. "Too direct," Naruto commented mildly. You telegraph your attacks with your eyes. Frustrated, Kiba and Akamaru coordinated a pincer attack. This time, Naruto didn't dodge. Instead, he released a focused burst of what appeared to be chakra, but was actually his developing conqueror's haki. The invisible wave hit Akamaru directly, causing the Ninken to whimper and collapse, instantly reverting from his transformed state. Akamaru! Kiba shouted in alarm. He's unharmed, Naruto assured him, just overwhelmed. In the observation balcony, Kakashi's visible eye widened. That wasn't a jutsu, he murmured. Beside him, Guy frowned in confusion. What do you mean? He clearly used some kind of technique. There were no hand signs, no visible chakra. Whatever he just did, it wasn't ninjutsu or genjutsu as we understand them. Down in the arena, Kiba attacked with renewed fury, only to find himself completely outmatched. Naruto moved with the practiced efficiency of a veteran warrior, each movement purposeful and economical. When he finally struck back, it was with a single, precise blow to Kiba's solar plexus that left the Inuzuka Jinin gasping on the ground, unable to continue. Winner, Naruto Uzumaki, the proctor announced, sounding somewhat surprised himself. As Naruto returned to the balcony, he found himself the subject of intense scrutiny from Jonin and Jinin alike. Gaara, in particular, watched him with a mixture of confusion and growing interest. That power, the Sanjin Shuriki said when Naruto passed near him. It wasn't the tailed beast within you. Naruto paused, meeting Gaara's eyes directly. For a moment, something passed between them, a recognition between two souls carrying burdens others couldn't understand. There are many kinds of strength, Gaara of the desert, Naruto replied quietly. Not all of them come from the beasts we contain. The month of training before the final round brought new opportunities for Naruto to continue reawakening his abilities. While the others sought specialized training, Sasuke with Kakashi, learning the Chidori, Neji perfecting his clan techniques, Gaara honing his sand control, Naruto walked a different path. He spent days in meditation, reconnecting with the foundations of Haki that had made him legendary in his previous life. Without a proper sword, he practiced with crafted wooden replicas, moving through forms that left Anbu observers baffled by their foreign nature. Most significantly, he finally ventured into his mindscape to confront the nine-tailed fox. The dank sewer of his inner world was much as canon Naruto would have found it, but the being who walked its corridors was far different. Naruto, with the consciousness and experiences of Shanks, approached the massive cage not with fear or anger, but with the measured confidence of someone who had faced gods and monsters alike. So, the Nine-Tails growled as Naruto appeared before him. My jailer finally deigns to visit. Naruto studied the massive fox with genuine interest. You know where I come from. We had creatures almost as impressive as you. Sea kings that could swallow islands whole. The fox's eyes narrowed. What nonsense are you babbling, human? Not nonsense, just memories from another life. Naruto sat cross-legged before the cage, completely at ease despite the killing intent radiating from the demon. I think it's time we had a proper conversation, you and I. We're going to be together for quite some time, after all. You think I want to converse with my prison warden? The fox snarled. Naruto smiled, that disarming, charismatic smile that had won him allies across the Grand Line in another life. I think you're bored, angry, and tired of being used as a weapon. I think you have a name you prefer to Nine-Tails or Demon Fox. And I think you're curious about how a human child can possess memories and abilities from another world entirely. The massive creature fell silent, its red eyes studying Naruto with new intensity. My name is Shanks, or it was in another life. I was a pirate, one of the strongest in my world. Naruto's eyes took on that distant quality that made him seem ancient despite his young appearance. I died fighting for the freedom of that world, and somehow my consciousness, my soul, found its way here, into this body, alongside you. Against its will, the fox found itself intrigued. Prove it, it demanded. Prove you're not just a delusional human. In response, Naruto closed his eyes and released the full force of his partially reawakened conqueror's haki within the mindscape. The sewer trembled, water rippling outward in concentric circles as an invisible pressure filled the space between them. The Nine-Tails' eyes widened in genuine surprise. That power, it's not chakra. No, Naruto agreed, opening his eyes. It's haki, the manifestation of willpower from my world. Specifically, this is Conqueror's Haki, possessed by only 1 in a million. And you think this makes us allies? The fox asked, though with noticeably less hostility. I think it makes us potential partners, Naruto corrected. In my previous life, I valued freedom above all else. I imagine you feel the same, trapped as you've been for generations. The fox studied him silently for a long moment. You're not what I expected, human. I rarely am, Naruto replied with a smile. Now, shall we discuss terms? There's a tournament coming up, and I could use a little extra power, properly asked for, not stolen. By the time the final round of the Chunin exams arrived, subtle changes had occurred in Naruto that the more observant ninjas noticed immediately. His red hair seemed more vibrant, his posture even more confident, and occasionally those who looked closely might catch a glimpse of reddish energy, not quite the 9 tails of chakra shimmering around him when he concentrated. His first match against Neji Hyuga was expected to be challenging. The Hyuga prodigy was considered among the strongest genin, his gentle fist style and Byakugan giving him advantages few could counter. As they faced each other in the arena, Neji smirked confidently. Fate has already determined the outcome of this match. You cannot defeat me. Naruto studied him with a bemused expression. You know, I once knew a man who believed destiny controlled everything. He was wrong too. The arrogance, Neji began, activating his Byakugan. It's not arrogance if you can back it up, Naruto interrupted mildly. Shall we begin? What followed was less a battle and more a lesson. As Neji attacked with his clan's precision tech, Naruto moved with fluid grace, avoiding the chakra-laden strikes with an ease that visibly frustrated the Hyuga. Your eyes give you great vision, Naruto commented as he danced around another attack. But there are things even the Byakugan cannot see. Stand still and fight, Neji demanded. As you wish. Naruto stopped moving, standing perfectly still as Neji launched his 8 trigrams 64 palms technique. The audience held their breath, expecting to see the red-haired genin crumple under the precisely targeted attack. Instead, something extraordinary happened. As Neji's fingers struck, they met resistance. Not the physical barrier of chakra, but something different, something invisible that hardened Naruto's body against the assault. In the stands, Kakashi uncovered his Sharingan, trying to understand what he was seeing. That's not a chakra technique, he murmured. Beside him, the disguised Orochimaru, as Kazekage, leaned forward with intense interest. In the arena, Neji completed his technique, only to stare in shock as Naruto remained standing, that apparently unharmed. Impossible, the Hyuga prodigy whispered. I hit all your chakra points. Naruto nodded. You did, very precisely in fact, but I'm not relying solely on chakra. With that, he finally took the offensive. Moving with blinding speed, he closed the distance between them. No jutsu, no chakra-enhanced strikes, just pure physical prowess combined with the invisible reinforcement of armament Haki. His strikes landed with devastating precision, targeting pressure points that Shanks had learned through decades of combat. Neji, for all his defensive capabilities, found himself overwhelmed. His rotation technique managed to deflect some attacks, but Naruto simply adjusted, finding the gaps in the Hyuga's defense with uncanny accuracy. The end came swiftly. As Neji prepared another rotation, Naruto finally channeled a visible manifestation of his power, a combination of the 9-tailed chakra, freely given after their mindscape conversation, and his own conqueror's Haki. Red energy spiraled around him, not the malevolent aura of the demon fox, but something more controlled, more refined. The impact of his final strike shattered Neji's rotation and sent the Hyuga prodigy crashing into the arena wall, unconscious. Silence fell over the stadium, followed by thunderous applause and excited chatter. No one had expected such a decisive victory, least of all against a Hyuga prodigy. As medical ninja attended to Neji, Naruto knelt beside him, waiting for him to regain consciousness. Fate didn't determine this outcome. Neji, he said quietly when the Hyuga's eyes fluttered open. Our choices did. Remember that. The invasion began shortly after Sasuke's match with Gaara, unfolding much as it would have in the original timeline, but with one significant difference. This time, there was a Naruto with the combat experience of a Yonko and the gradually reawakening powers that had made Shanks legendary. As Gaara transformed, giving in to Shukaku's influence, Naruto pursued him with Sasuke and Sakura. When they finally confronted the partially transformed Jinchuriki, Sasuke was already depleted from his earlier match, and Sakura quickly found herself captured by Gaara's sand. "Stay back," Naruto instructed Sasuke, his voice carrying that same unquestionable authority that had once commanded one of the Grand Line's most respected crews. "I'll handle this." "You can't fight him alone," Sasuke protested, clutching his cursed seal in pain. Naruto smiled, that confident, knowing smile. "I'm never alone." As he approached the increasingly monstrous Gaara, Naruto finally stopped holding back. The red energy that had been glimpsed earlier now flowed freely around him, a perfect harmony of the Nine-Tails chakra and his own haki. His eyes shifted, taking on a reddish hue without becoming the slitted eyes of the fox. "Gaara," he called, his voice somehow carrying over the roar of the transforming Jinchuriki. "I understand your pain better than anyone. The loneliness, the hatred, the feeling that your existence only matters when you're destroying others." "Shut up!" Gaara screamed, sand whipping around him violently. "You know nothing of my pain. I know that Shikaku whispers to you at night, preventing you from sleeping. I know that your father ordered your death multiple times. I know that the only person who ever claimed to love you tried to assassinate you." Naruto continued walking forward, the sand attack seeming to slide around him as if repelled by an invisible force. "But I also know there's more to life than pain and destruction. In his previous life, Shanks had faced down admirals with the power to reshape islands. He had stood equal with Whitebeard, Kaido, and Big Mom. The partially transformed Gaara, for all his destructive capability, was not beyond Naruto's ability to handle. As Shukaku's influence grew stronger, Naruto finally unleashed the full extent of his reawakened abilities. Combining the controlled power of the Nine-Tails with the three forms of haki that had made him a Yonko, he moved with impossible speed and precision. Each strike landed exactly where intended, disrupting the chakra flow that maintained Gaara's transformation. Sand attacks that should have crushed him were dodged with the precognitive abilities of observation haki or hardened against with armament. When Gaara finally completed his transformation into the full Shukaku form, Naruto stood unfazed below the massive Tanuki. "Is this all you have?" he called up, his voice carrying the unmistakable weight of Conqueror's haki. "Is destruction really the only proof of your existence? I'll kill you to prove my existence!" Gaara Shukaku roared, preparing a massive-tailed beast ball. Naruto closed his eyes, drawing deeply on the perfect synthesis of his two power sources. When he opened them again, the red-haired genin was surrounded by a swirling aura that combined the Nine-Tails chakra with the crimson lightning-like manifestation of advanced Conqueror's haki. As the tailed beast ball launched toward him, Naruto didn't dodge. Instead, he raised his hand, just as Shanks had once stopped Akainu's magma fist with his sword, and met the attack head-on. The resulting explosion was visible from Konoha itself, a massive mushroom cloud rising above the forest. When the dust settled, Shikaku's form was crumbling, sand falling away to reveal an exhausted Gaara. Naruto stood before him, his clothes torn but otherwise unharmed. The aura around him had dimmed but not disappeared entirely. "How?" Gaara whispered, genuine fear in his eyes for perhaps the first time. "How are you this strong?" Naruto knelt beside the fallen sand Jinchuriki. "Strength doesn't come from being a perfect weapon, Gaara. It comes from having something worth protecting. I protect only myself," Gaara replied weakly. "And that's why you'll never reach your full potential," Naruto said gently. "The strongest people I've ever known, in this life or any other, found their true power when fighting for someone else." As Temari and Conqueror arrived to retrieve their brother, they found not the monster they feared, but a thoughtful, silent Gaara who allowed himself to be carried without protest. "What did you do to him?" Temari asked Naruto, bewildered by the change. Naruto smiled. "I just reminded him that he's human." When they returned to Konoha, the village was in mourning. The third Hokage had fallen in battle against Orochimaru, just as in the original timeline. But the damage to the village was significantly less extensive, thanks in part to Naruto's early neutralization of the Sand's secret weapon. In the aftermath, as the village council met to discuss the Chunin exam results, Naruto found himself promoted alongside Shikamaru. not just for his victory in his match, but for his extraordinary actions during the invasion. Jiraiya, who had witnessed the distant explosion from Naruto's confrontation with Gaara, sought out the red-haired Jonin with newfound interest. "That was some display of power, kid," the Sannin said, finding Naruto at the third Hokage's funeral. "Not exactly what I expected from Minato and Kushina's son." Naruto turned to him with a knowing look. "There's a lot about me that defies expectation, Jiraiya of the Sannin." The white-haired ninja raised an eyebrow. "You know who I am?" "I make it my business to know the important players," Naruto replied with that enigmatic smile that made him seem far older than his years. "Just as you've made it yours to keep tabs on me from a distance." Jiraiya studied him with new intensity. "You're nothing like the reports suggested you would be. Reports can be misleading. People are complex." Naruto's gaze drifted to the Hokage monument. "I understand you're planning to search for Tsunade to become the 5th Hokage." Jiraiya didn't bother asking how Naruto knew this closely held information. "I am, and I was thinking of bringing you along." "I'd be honored," Naruto replied with genuine respect. There's much we could learn from each other on such a journey. As they departed Konoha days later, Jiraiya couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't mentoring a genin at all, but rather traveling with an equal disguised in a young body, someone with wisdom and power that belied his apparent age. The legacy of Shanks continued to grow in this new world, adapting and evolving to meet new challenges, while never forgetting the lessons of a lifetime spent on the high seas of another reality. The journey to find Tsunade began much as it might have in the original timeline, with Jiraiya taking the lead and Naruto following, but the dynamics between them quickly proved fundamentally different. Rather than the boisterous, attention-seeking boy demanding training, this red-haired Naruto observed everything with quiet attentiveness, occasionally asking questions that displayed surprising insight. "The legendary sucker," Naruto commented as they discussed their target. "A medic who fears blood, a gambler who always loses, a woman running from her past. She sounds like someone carrying too many burdens alone." Jiraiya gave him a sidelong glance. "That's an unusually perceptive assessment for someone who's never met her." Naruto smiled enigmatically. "I've known people weighed down by their past before. The heaviest anchors are the ones we forge ourselves." This philosophical observation, delivered with the casual certainty of someone who had witnessed such things firsthand, continued to unsettle Jiraiya. Everything about this boy contradicted what he had expected from Minato and Kushina's son. Their first night at an inn, Jiraiya attempted his usual routine, making excuses about research to slip away to the local red light district. To his surprise, Naruto didn't protest or demand training. Instead, the red-haired Chunin simply nodded. "Enjoy your evening, Jiraiya-sama. Perhaps we could discuss the Rasengan tomorrow? I've been curious about my father's technique." Jiraiya froze mid-step. "What did you say?" "The Rasengan," Naruto repeated calmly. "My father's technique. Unless you'd prefer to keep pretending I don't know who my parents were." The Sannin's jovial mask slipped, revealing genuine shock. "How long have you known? About being the 4th Hokage's son? Or about being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki?" Naruto leaned back in his chair, perfectly at ease. "Let's just say I've pieced things together over the years. Red hair from my mother's side, though. Interesting how genetics work." Jiraiya abandoned his plans for the evening, instead sharing a bottle of sake with this strangely mature version of his godson. It was during this conversation that he first witnessed another aspect of Naruto's unusual nature, his ability to drink alcohol as if he'd been doing it for decades. "Should you be drinking that?" Jiraiya asked as Naruto sipped the sake appreciatively. "Probably not, given this body's age," Naruto admitted with a small smile. "But some habits are hard to break, even across lifetimes." Before Jiraiya could question this cryptic statement, they were interrupted by a knock at their door. The presence on the other side radiated killing intent that instantly put both ninja on alert. "Naruto Uzumaki," a cold voice called. "Come with us." Naruto's expression shifted to one of calm readiness. "Ah, it seems the Akatsuki have found us sooner than expected." "How do you know about Akatsuki?" Jiraiya demanded, but there was no time for answers as the door splintered inward. Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki stood in the doorway, their black cloaks with red clouds unmistakable. Kasame's massive sword Samehada was already unwrapped, hungry for chakra, while Itachi's Sharingan spun lazily, assessing the situation. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Kasame grinned, revealing sharp teeth. This might be fun after all. What happened next surprised everyone present. Before Jiraiya could move to protect him, Naruto stood and took a single step forward. His posture shifted subtly into a stance that neither Akatsuki member recognized, the balanced, powerful stance of a master swordsman from another world. Itachi Uchiha and Kasame Hoshigaki, Naruto acknowledged, his voice calm despite the danger. The mass murderer and the monster of the hidden mist. I was wondering when we'd meet. Kasame's grin widened. The kid knows us, Itachi. I'm flattered. Be cautious, Itachi warned, his Sharingan fixed on Naruto. There's something unusual about his chakra. Naruto smiled, that same disarming smile that had once charmed allies and enemies alike across the Grand Line. It's not my chakra you should be worried about. With those words, he released a controlled wave of Conqueror's Haki, focused specifically on the two Akatsuki members. The pressure in the hallway intensified dramatically, causing the wooden floor to creak and the walls to groan. Both Kasame and Itachi visibly stiffened, their eyes widening in surprise at the invisible force pressing against them. What is this technique? Kasame growled, Samehada writhing in response to the strange energy. Samehada can't absorb it. Itachi's Sharingan spun faster, attempting to analyze the unknown power. It's not Genjutsu or any chakra nature I recognize. Jiraiya, equally stunned by the display, moved to stand beside Naruto. Whatever you're doing, kid, keep it up while I prepare containment. That won't be necessary, Naruto interrupted, his eyes never leaving the Akatsuki pair. They'll be leaving now. Kisame barked a laugh, though it sounded strained under the continuing pressure. Pretty confident for a brat. Maybe I should cut off a leg or two, teach you some respect. You could try, Naruto replied mildly. Then, addressing Itachi directly, you're not here to capture me today. This is reconnaissance. You're reporting back to Pain about the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki's capabilities. Consider this your first data point. I am not what you expected. Itachi's impassive expression flickered momentarily with surprise at Naruto's knowledge of their organization's leader. Furthermore, Naruto continued, you have your own agenda regarding Sasuke. You want him to grow stronger, to eventually kill you and become a hero to Konoha. A noble sacrifice in your mind. Now, genuine shock registered on Itachi's face, quickly masked but not before Kasame noticed. Itachi? What's he talking about? Naruto increased the pressure of his haki, focusing it more intensely on the pair. Leave now. Tell your leader that the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki is not a suitable target at this time. When we eventually face each other in earnest, I want it to be on my terms, not yours. The standoff lasted several more tense seconds before Itachi finally spoke. We're withdrawing, Kisame. What? We can take them, the swordsman protested. No, Itachi's voice was firm. We need to reassess. This Jinchuriki is unexpected. As the Akatsuki members retreated, Naruto gradually relaxed, the invisible pressure dissipating. Jiraiya stared at his godson with new wariness and respect. What was that? He demanded once they were alone. That wasn't the Nine-Tails chakra. Naruto poured himself another small cup of sake, his movements perfectly steady despite the confrontation. Let's just say it's a personal technique I've been developing, one of several abilities I'm gradually remastering. Remastering? Jiraiya repeated. And how did you know those details about Itachi and the Akatsuki's leader? Naruto sipped his sake thoughtfully. Some things are better shown than explained. I believe you were going to teach me the Rasengan? The deflection was obvious, but Jiraiya recognized the stubborn set of Naruto's jaw, the same expression Kushina had worn when she'd made up her mind about something. Further questioning would yield no results tonight. Over the next few days, as they continued their search for Tsunade, Jiraiya observed Naruto's progress with the Rasengan with increasing amazement. What had taken Minato 3 years to develop, and Jiraiya several months to learn, Naruto mastered in less than a week. It wasn't just raw talent. The red-haired Chunin approached the technique with the methodical analysis of a seasoned combat veteran, breaking down its components and reassembling them with practiced efficiency. It's about rotation and power, contained within a perfect sphere. Naruto commented as he formed a flawless Rasengan in his palm on his 5th day of training. The principles aren't so different from certain techniques I used to know. Jiraiya watched, baffled by the ease with which Naruto had mastered one of the 4th Hokage's most complex jutsu. Used to know? Kid, you're 12. What techniques could you possibly used to know? Naruto dispelled the Rasengan and fixed Jiraiya with that unnervingly ancient gaze. Perhaps it's time for some honesty between us, Jiraiya-sama. You've been watching me closely, trying to reconcile what you see with what you expected. Let me save you some trouble. I am not just Naruto Uzumaki. Meaning what exactly? Jiraiya's voice took on a dangerous edge. Is the Nine Tails influencing you? No, nothing like that. Kurama and I have an understanding, but he's not controlling me. Kurama? The Nine Tails name, Naruto explained casually. He doesn't appreciate being referred to only by his tail count. Jiraiya's eyes widened. You're on a first-name basis with the Nine Tails? As I said, we have an understanding. Naruto's expression became serious. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I ask that you listen with an open mind. Over the next hour, Naruto shared a carefully edited version of the truth, that his consciousness contained the memories and experiences of another life, one where he had been a powerful warrior named Shanks. He described growing up as an apprentice on a legendary crew, eventually becoming one of the strongest people in that world, mastering Haki and swordsmanship before dying in a final battle that had somehow transferred his soul into this new existence. So you're claiming to be, what? Reincarnated? Jiraiya asked when Naruto finished, his skepticism evident despite the extraordinary abilities he'd witnessed. In essence, yes. My soul, my memories, my techniques, all transferred into this body at birth. It's why I've never behaved like a normal child. Why I possess combat instincts and tactical awareness far beyond my apparent years. Jiraiya studied him intently. If even half of what you're saying is true, you could be the most valuable asset Konoha has ever produced, or the most dangerous liability. I have no interest in being anyone's weapon or liability, Naruto replied firmly. My loyalty is to Konoha because this is my home now, but I value freedom above all else, both my own and others. The conviction in his voice, the absolute certainty with which he spoke, gave Jiraiya pause. There was no deception in those eyes, only the steady gaze of someone who had lived long enough to know exactly who they were and what they stood for. I'll reserve judgment, the Sannin finally said, but I'll be watching closely. Naruto smiled. I'd expect nothing less from the Toad Sage. Their search for Tsunade finally led them to Tanzaku Town, where they found the legendary medic much as expected, drinking and gambling to forget her troubles. What wasn't expected was Naruto's approach to the situation. Rather than the brash challenge that might have occurred in another timeline, this Naruto assessed the situation with the practiced eye of someone who had navigated complex negotiations and tense standoffs in his previous life. Tsunade Senju, he greeted her respectfully as they entered the bar where she drank with Shizune. It's an honor to meet one of the legendary Sannin. Your reputation as a medical genius precedes you. Tsunade looked up from her sake, eyes narrowing suspiciously. Jiraiya, who's the kid? And what's with that hair, trying to impersonate an Uzumaki? I am an Uzumaki, Naruto replied before Jiraiya could speak. Naruto Uzumaki, son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze. The bluntness of his introduction caused Tsunade to choke on her drink. Yes. And we're here because Konoha needs a new Hokage following the third's death. The council believes you're the most qualified candidate. Tsunade's expression hardened. Not interested. Being Hokage is a fool's job, a quick way to an early grave. Rather than arguing, Naruto pulled up a chair and, to everyone's surprise, poured himself a cup from Tsunade's sake bottle. I understand your reluctance. You've lost too much already. Your brother Nawaki, your lover Dan, both died pursuing the dream of becoming Hokage. Watch it, kid, Tsunade growled, her killing intent spiking. Naruto sipped the sake calmly, completely unfazed by her anger. The thing about dreams, though, is that they never really die. They get passed on. Your grandfather's dream of a peaceful village where children don't have to fight on battlefields, it's still alive. The question is whether you're going to help nurture it or continue running from it. You don't know anything about loss, brat, Tsunade snapped. Naruto set down his cup, his eyes taking on that distant quality that made him seem ancient. In this life, perhaps not as much as you, but I remember what it's like to lose everyone you care about, to watch friends die, to make impossible choices, to keep moving forward when all you want to do is give up. Something in his tone, the raw authenticity of someone who had truly experienced such things, gave Tsunade pause. "You talk like an old man," she observed, studying him more carefully. "Old soul," Naruto corrected with a small smile. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Orochimaru and Kabuto, seeking Tsunade's medical expertise to heal the snake Sanin's arms, damaged during his battle with the third Hokage. The encounter rapidly escalated toward violence, but once again, Naruto's approach differed dramatically from what might have occurred in another timeline. As Tsunade launched herself at Orochimaru in a rage, Naruto moved with blinding speed, intercepting her with a precision that spoke of countless battles. His hand caught her wrist, not forcefully enough to hurt her, but with sufficient strength to halt her attack, a feat that shouldn't have been possible given the legendary strength of the female Sannin. "Not here," he said quietly. "Too many civilians." Tsunade stared at him in shock, then at her restrained wrist. "How did you?" Orochimaru's cold laughter interrupted her. My, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki continues to surprise. First the Chunin exams, now this. What are you really, Naruto Uzumaki? Naruto turned to face the snake Sannin, his posture shifting subtly into a combat stance that none of the Konoha ninja recognized, but that radiated absolute readiness. Someone beyond your ability to manipulate or understand, Orochimaru. The tension in the room was palpable as the three Sannin and their respective allies faced off. It was Naruto who broke the standoff, releasing Tsunade's wrist and addressing Orochimaru directly. "You've offered Tsunade a deal to heal your arms in exchange for resurrecting her loved ones with the impure world reincarnation. A tempting offer for someone drowning in grief." He turned to Tsunade. "But reanimated puppets aren't the same as the people you've lost. They're echoes, shadows bound to another's will. Your brother and Dan would never want to return that way." Orochimaru's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You're remarkably well informed about a jutsu that's supposed to be a S-rank secret." "I make it my business to understand potential threats," Naruto replied evenly. "Just as I understand that your interest in Sasuke Uchiha stems from your desire for the Sharingan after failing to obtain Itachi's body years ago." The depth of Naruto's knowledge clearly unsettled even the unflappable Snake Sannin. Kabuto moved protectively closer to his master, hands glowing with chakra scalpels. "Interesting," Orochimaru hissed. "Perhaps I've been focusing on the wrong Konoha gene in all this time." "Chunin," Naruto corrected mildly. "And yes, you have. But your interest isn't welcome regardless. What might have devolved into a chaotic battle instead resolved into a tense agreement to meet the following day outside the town for a definitive confrontation." As Orochimaru and Kabuto departed, Tsunade rounded on Naruto. "Start talking, kid. How do you know about the impure world reincarnation? How did you stop my punch? And what the hell is that strange chakra you're using that doesn't feel like chakra at all?" Naruto exchanged a glance with Jiraiya, who nodded slightly, permission to share what he'd revealed earlier. "It's a long story," Naruto began, "and one that's easier to demonstrate than explain." Over the next hour, he gave Tsunade the same edited version he'd shared with Jiraiya, supplemented with demonstrations of his partially reawakened Haki abilities. The combination of armament Haki with his naturally large chakra reserves explained how he'd stopped her punch, though he admitted he wouldn't want to test his strength against hers in a serious confrontation. "Reincarnation," Tsunade said flatly when he finished, "with memories intact." "I understand your skepticism," Naruto acknowledged. "Actually," she interrupted, "I've heard stranger things in my medical research. The soul is still largely a mystery, even to the most advanced medical ninjutsu. What you're describing isn't theoretically impossible, just extremely rare." Jiraiya looked surprised. "You believe him?" Tsunade shrugged. "I believe he believes it. And it would explain a lot about what I'm sensing from him. His chakra pathways show patterns I've never seen before, like they're adapting to channel something that isn't quite chakra alongside normal energy." The confrontation with Orochimaru the next day unfolded on open ground outside Tanzaku town. Tsunade, having refused the snake Sanen's offer, stood alongside Jiraiya. Shizune and Naruto completed their group, facing Orochimaru and Kabuto across the field. 3 Sanin together again, Orochimaru observed with mock sentimentality. Just like old times. Though I notice you brought a child to an Sanin affair, Jiraiya. I'm not concerned, Jiraiya replied, glancing at Naruto. He's full of surprises. The battle began in earnest, quickly dividing into parallel conflicts. Jiraiya and Tsunade against Orochimaru, while Naruto faced Kabuto. The silver-haired medic initially smirked, confident in his ability to outmatch a mere Chunin, regardless of the rumors from the Chunin exams. I've studied your file extensively, Naruto-kun, Kabuto said as they circled each other. Impressive progress recently, but nothing I can't handle. Naruto smiled, that knowing smile that had unsettled so many. Files can be misleading, and you'll find I'm significantly stronger than when we last met during the exams. Kabuto struck first, hands glowing with chakra scalpels as he targeted Naruto's muscles and tendons with surgical precision. To his shock, the red-haired Chunin moved with fluid grace that seemed to anticipate his every attack, dodging or deflecting strikes that should have connected. Interesting, Kabuto commented, adjusting his strategy. Some form of precognition? Or just good reflexes? A bit of both, Naruto replied, his movements economical and purposeful. In my previous life, I faced opponents far faster and more deadly than you, Kabuto. Your attacks are technically impressive, but predictable. Frustrated, Kabuto increased his speed, finally landing a glancing blow to Naruto's leg that should have severed key muscles. Instead, his chakra scalpel met unexpected resistance. The invisible armor of armament Haki combined with a thin layer of the Nine Tails chakra, freely given by Kurama to reinforce his host. What is this? Kabuto demanded, genuine confusion in his voice. Some kind of chakra armor? Rather than answering, Naruto finally took the offensive. His fighting style was unlike anything Kabuto had ever encountered. Not the Academy Taijutsu or any recognizable shinobi combat form, but something fluid and adaptable that seemed to draw from countless battles against varied opponents. Each strike targeted vital points with unerring accuracy, forcing Kabuto to rely increasingly on his regenerative abilities. The medic's confidence gradually gave way to concern as he realized his opponent was systematically testing his defenses, adapting to his healing factor, and steadily increasing the pressure. You fight like a seasoned jonin, Kabuto observed, breathing heavily as he disengaged to reassess. No, something else entirely. Something not from our shinobi world. Naruto nodded approvingly. Perceptive. Now, shall we finish this? I believe my allies could use some assistance with Orochimaru. With that, he finally unleashed a more significant portion of his power, the harmonious blend of the Nine Tails chakra and his reawakened Haki. The red energy that surrounded him wasn't the chaotic, malevolent aura of an uncontrolled Jinchuriki, but something refined and precisely directed. Kabuto found himself overwhelmed by a series of attacks too fast to counter, too powerful to block. When Naruto finally landed a decisive blow, a palm strike to the chest that combined physical force with a pulse of Conqueror's Haki, Kabuto was sent flying backward, crashing through several trees before coming to rest, unconscious and seriously injured. Turning his attention to the Sannin battle, Naruto assessed the situation quickly. Tsunade was struggling with her hemophobia after Orochimaru deliberately covered her in blood, while Jiraiya, still suffering from the drugging Tsunade had given him the previous night, wasn't fighting at full capacity. The snake Sannin, despite his injured arms, was gaining the upper hand through his summons and versatility. Without hesitation, Naruto bit his thumb and performed the summoning jutsu that Jiraiya had taught him during their journey. Unlike in the original timeline, where Naruto might have summoned Gamabunta directly, this version called forth a different Toad entirely, Gamaken, known for his balanced combat style that complemented Naruto's own approach. Gamaken, Naruto addressed the massive Toad respectfully. I request your assistance against Orochimaru of the Sannin. The Toad warrior studied the red-haired human with surprise. You're not Jiraiya-sama, though you have his contract. Who are you to summon me, young one? Naruto Uzumaki, though in another life I was known as Shanks. Jiraiya is my godfather and current teacher. Something in Naruto's bearing, the absolute confidence and the strange, ancient quality in his eyes, gave Gamaken pause. Very well. Though I am clumsy, I shall assist you. Their coordinated attack against Orochimaru's giant snake summon turned the tide of battle. Naruto directed Gamaken with the tactical precision of someone who had commanded powerful allies in countless battles, creating openings for Jiraiya and Tsunade to press their advantage. When Orochimaru, realizing the battle was lost, attempted to flee, Naruto did something that shocked everyone present. Channeling a combination of chakra and Conqueror's Haki into his voice, he called out a single command: "Stop!" The force behind the word was so powerful that it momentarily froze everyone on the battlefield, allies and enemies alike. The pressure that accompanied it was visible as a rippling distortion in the air, spreading outward from Naruto in a concentric wave. In that moment of perfect stillness, Tsunade recovered her composure enough to launch a final devastating attack. Her fist connected with Orochimaru's chest, sending the snake Sannin crashing into the ground with such force that it created a crater 30 feet wide. Though Orochimaru ultimately escaped by shedding his damaged body like a snake's skin and slithering away, the victory was decisive. As the dust settled, all eyes turned to Naruto, who stood calmly beside Gamaken, the red aura around him gradually fading. "What was that?" Tsunade, staring at the young Chunin with new wariness and respect. "That shout, that pressure, it wasn't a jutsu." Naruto dispelled his summoning with a respectful nod to Gamaken before turning to Tsunade. "In my previous life, it was called Conqueror's Haki, the ability to overwhelm others with sheer force of will. Only 1 in a million were born with the potential for it. And you're gradually regaining this ability," Jiraiya observed, supporting himself on a staff as he approached. "Along with your other skills." "Yes, they're returning more quickly now, adapting to work with this world's chakra system." Tsunade studied him intently, her medical expertise allowing her to see what others might miss, the perfect harmony between his unusual energy and his physical form, as if his body were evolving to better channel this power from another world. "You're a living impossibility," she finally said. "And exactly the kind of impossible thing that would make the council members lose what little minds they have left." Naruto smiled. "Then perhaps it's good that Konoha will have a strong, level-headed Hokage to manage their concerns." Tsunade's eyes widened. "I haven't agreed to." "But you will," Naruto interrupted gently, "because you've just been reminded that there are still things worth fighting for, people worth protecting. The will of fire hasn't died out. It's just been waiting for someone to fan the flames again." The conviction in his voice, the absolute certainty with which he spoke, left Tsunade speechless. There was wisdom in those eyes that went beyond his apparent years, the wisdom of someone who had lived a full life, made difficult choices, and learned what truly mattered. With a resigned sigh that couldn't quite hide her growing resolve, Tsunade nodded. "Fine, but you're coming with me, kid. Whatever you are, reincarnated pirate king or just a very strange Jinchuriki, Konoha needs to understand exactly what we have in you." "Not a king," Naruto corrected with a small smile. "Just a captain who sailed with the king for a time, and I'd be honored to serve under the 5th Hokage." Their return to Konoha marked the beginning of a new era, one where the presence of a red-haired Chunin with the soul of a legendary pirate would reshape the very foundations of the shinobi world. The invasion had been repelled, but greater challenges lay ahead. Akatsuki was moving, Orochimaru was plotting, and the shadow of a forgotten enemy named Madara Uchiha loomed on the distant horizon. For Naruto Uzumaki, once known as red-haired Shanks, the adventure was just beginning. The months following Tsunade's installation as the 5th Hokage brought significant changes to Konoha. Under her leadership, the village recovered from Orochimaru's invasion with remarkable speed. The alliance with Tsunagakure was renegotiated, strengthened by Gaara's unexpected support following his encounter with Naruto during the Chunin exams. For Naruto himself, this period marked a time of continued growth and integration of his dual nature. With Tsunade's approval, he began specialized training under various jonin, each helping him adapt his reawakening abilities to the shinobi world's combat systems. The most significant development, however, came from within. After his full disclosure to Jiraiya and Tsunade about his reincarnated status, Naruto decided it was time for a more thorough conversation with the Nine-Tails. In the depths of his mindscape, he once again stood before the massive cage containing the fox demon. Unlike their first meeting, the atmosphere was different, less hostile, more cautiously respectful on both sides. "You've been busy, human," Kurama observed, his massive form shifting in the shadows behind the bars. "Your power grows. That haki of yours is becoming more refined." Naruto nodded, sitting cross-legged before the cage with the easy confidence that had characterized Shanks. "It's adapting to work with chakra. Your chakra, specifically, seems to resonate with Conqueror's haki in particular." "Not surprising," the fox replied, studying his host with those massive red eyes. "My chakra is also an expression of will and dominance. Which is why I've come to propose a more formal partnership," Naruto said, getting directly to the point. "In my previous life, strength came not just from personal power, but from allies and mutual respect. You're not just a source of chakra, Kurama. You're a sentient being with your own will and dignity." The Nine-Tails' eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Access to your chakra without the rage and loss of control that typically accompanies it. In return, I'll work toward a seal that allows you more freedom and awareness of the outside world without compromising my own autonomy." The fox was silent for a long moment, considering. "Why would you offer this?" "Most Jinchuriki seek only to suppress and control their tailed beasts." "Because I remember what it's like to be truly free," Naruto replied simply. "To sail the open seas, answerable to no one. Your imprisonment isn't something I would have chosen for you, but it's a reality we both must live with for now. I'm offering to make that reality more bearable for both of us." Another long silence followed before Kurama finally spoke again. "Your offer is acceptable. But know this, Shanks of another world, if you betray this arrangement, if you seek to control me as others have, my wrath will be unimaginable." Naruto smiled, that same disarming, charismatic smile that had won him allies across the Grand Line. "I would expect nothing less. Partners, then?" The manifestation of their agreement was a modified seal that appeared on Naruto's palm when he channeled the Nine-Tails' mate chakra, a spiral similar to the Uzumaki clan symbol, but with 9 small flame-like projections representing the fox's tails. This new partnership became evident during Naruto's first major mission following the invasion, the retrieval of Sasuke Uchiha after his defection to Orochimaru. Unlike in the original timeline, this Sasuke's path had diverged significantly due to Naruto's influence. The red-haired Chunin's unusual wisdom and perspective had created a different dynamic within Team 7, one where Sasuke's obsession with killing Itachi remained, but was tempered by growing bonds with his teammates. The breaking point came during a mission where they encountered Itachi and Kisame again, this time resulting in Sasuke being subjected to Itachi's Tsukuyomi. The psychological damage, combined with Sasuke's frustration at being unable to match Naruto's rapidly growing power, made him vulnerable to Orochimaru's promise of strength through the curse mark. When the Sound Four arrived with their offer, Sasuke made his choice, but not without internal conflict born from the bonds that this version of Naruto had carefully cultivated. "You've assembled quite the team," Tsunade observed as she briefed Naruto on the retrieval mission. "Shikamaru, Neji, Choji, Kiba, and Rock Lee have all volunteered." Naruto nodded thoughtfully. "They're good shinobi, but this mission will be dangerous. The Sound Four are elite, and Sasuke himself won't come willingly." "You sound like you have another approach in mind," the Hokage noted, studying him carefully. "I do." Naruto's expression was serious. "Let me go alone." "Absolutely not," Tsunade replied immediately. "Even with your unusual abilities, that's too risky. With respect, Lady Hokage, a team approach plays into the Sound Force strategy. They specialize in divide and conquer tactics. One person, the right person, moving quickly can bypass their defenses and reach Sasuke directly. And you believe you're that person?" Naruto met her gaze steadily. "I know I am. Sasuke and I have a connection. His departure isn't just about power, it's about identity and purpose. I understand that struggle better than anyone." After further deliberation, a compromise was reached. Naruto would go ahead as the vanguard, moving at maximum speed to intercept Sasuke before he crossed the border, while the retrieval team would follow to handle the Sound Four. As Naruto prepared to depart, Sakura approached him at the village gates, her eyes red from crying, but her expression determined. Bring him back, she said simply. Naruto studied her with compassion. In this timeline, his relationship with Sakura had developed differently, built on mutual respect rather than one-sided infatuation. He had become something of a mentor to her, encouraging her to develop her natural talents for chakra control into medical ninjutsu under Tsunade's guidance. "I'll do everything in my power," he promised. "But Sakura, you should prepare yourself for the possibility that the Sasuke who returns may not be the same one who left." She nodded, understanding the depth of his warning. "Just make sure he has the chance to find himself again. Here, with us." With that, Naruto departed, moving with the extraordinary speed that combined his shinobi training with the physical prowess he was gradually reclaiming from his days as a Yonko. His senses, enhanced by the reawakening observation haki, extended far beyond normal perception, allowing him to track Sasuke's distinctive chakra signature despite the distance. He caught up to the Sound Four and Sasuke at the Valley of the End, a fitting location for the confrontation that would follow. The four elite sound ninja moved to intercept him, but found themselves facing something they hadn't anticipated. Naruto stood calmly before them, his red hair stirring in the breeze, eyes focused not on them, but on the coffin-like container where Sasuke was undergoing his transformation. "Step aside," he said quietly. "My business is with Sasuke Uchiha, not with you." Sakon laughed dismissively. "You've got guts coming alone, leaf trash, but you're outnumbered and outmatched." Without warning, Naruto released a wave of Conqueror's haki, focused and controlled. The pressure hit the Sound Four like a physical blow, driving Tayuya and Jirobo to their knees immediately. Sakon and Kidomaru, slightly more resilient, staggered but remained standing. "What? What is this jutsu?" Kidomaru gasped, his multiple arms bracing against the invisible force. "Not a jutsu," Naruto replied, taking a step forward. The pressure intensified, cracking the stone beneath his feet. "Last chance to leave. Take your injured and go. Tell Orochimaru that Sasuke Uchiha remains under Konoha's protection." Sakon activated his curse mark, the black pattern spreading across his skin as he transformed into his level 2 state. "We're not leaving without completing our mission." What followed was brief but definitive. Naruto moved with blinding speed, combining the physical techniques he had mastered as Shanks with the chakra-enhanced abilities of a shinobi. Each strike was precisely targeted, enhanced with armament haki, and occasionally supplemented with the Nine Tails last chakra when additional power was needed. Within minutes, the Sound Four lay defeated, alive but incapacitated. Naruto had deliberately avoided killing blows, a mercy that reflected his philosophy from both lives. As the container holding Sasuke finally broke open, revealing the Uchiha in the midst of his curse mark transformation, Naruto stood waiting, completely calm despite the malevolent chakra swirling around his former teammate. "They sent just you?" Sasuke asked, his voice distorted by the transformation. "Not even worth a full retrieval team?" "They wanted to send a team," Naruto replied honestly. "I convinced them otherwise. This is between us, Sasuke. It always has been." Sasuke studied him with those changed eyes, taking in the defeated Sound Four and Naruto's unruffled appearance. "You've been holding back even more than I thought, all this time making me believe I was getting closer to your level." "I never lied about your progress," Naruto countered. "You have grown stronger, but you're choosing a path that offers quick power at the cost of everything else." "What would you know about it?" Sasuke snarled, the wing-like protrusions of his curse mark form flexing menacingly. "You were born special. The Nine Tails, your unusual abilities. You never had to work for your power." Naruto's expression softened with genuine compassion. "In this life, perhaps some advantages were given to me, but the strength I'm gradually reclaiming, that was earned through decades of battles, losses, and hard choices in another existence. Nothing worth having comes easily, Sasuke." More cryptic philosophy, Sasuke scoffed, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "It doesn't matter. I'm going to Orochimaru. I need his power to kill Itachi. And after you kill him, what then?" Naruto asked, echoing their conversation from the academy years earlier. "Orochimaru wants your body, Sasuke. You're not a student to him. You're a vessel. Is that really the legacy you want for the Uchiha clan? To end as a stolen skin for a madman?" Doubt visibly crossed Sasuke's face, but the curse mark's influence pushed him toward rage instead of reason. With a roar of frustration, he charged, Chidori forming in his hand. Naruto made no move to dodge or counter. Instead, he simply stood his ground, meeting Sasuke's gaze steadily as the lightning technique aimed directly for his heart. At the last possible moment, Sasuke diverted his attack, the Chidori grazing Naruto's shoulder instead of piercing his chest. Blood sprayed from the wound, but Naruto didn't flinch. You couldn't do it, he observed quietly, because despite everything, you know this isn't your path. Shut up, Sasuke screamed, the curse mark fluctuating as his resolve wavered. You don't know anything about my path. I know that Itachi wants you to kill him, Naruto replied, his voice calm despite his bleeding shoulder. I know he spared you that night for a reason. I know there are truths about the Uchiha massacre that have been hidden from you. Sasuke froze, his transformed features contorting with shock. What are you talking about? Itachi was ordered to eliminate the Uchiha clan, Naruto said quietly, deciding that truth, however painful, was necessary now. Your clan was planning a coup against Konoha. The third Hokage tried to negotiate, but Danzo and the council pushed for elimination. Itachi chose to carry out the mission himself rather than let others do it, on one condition, that you be spared. You're lying. Sasuke lunged again, but his attack was unfocused, easily sidestepped. Think, Sasuke, Naruto urged. Itachi was a pacifist at heart. You knew that better than anyone. He was Anbu captain at 13, a prodigy beyond measure. If he simply wanted power, why kill everyone, except the one person who could eventually threaten him? Why implant in you the drive to become strong enough to kill him? The logic of Naruto's words cut through the curse mark's influence, causing Sasuke to stagger back, clutching his head as competing truths warred within him. How could you possibly know this? He demanded. Naruto touched his wound, which was already healing due to the Ninetales' regenerative abilities. Let's just say I have access to perspectives and knowledge beyond my years. I've spoken with Itachi. I've researched the classified mission files. Most importantly, I've considered what makes sense given everything we know about your brother. The curse mark receded slightly as Sasuke's rational mind reasserted control. Even if what you say is true, and I'm not saying I believe you, Itachi still killed our parents. He still tortured me with Tsukuyomi. He still joined the Akatsuki. All part of his cover, Naruto explained. He became a rogue ninja to protect Konoha from the shadows and to shape you into the avenger he believed you needed to be, strong enough to kill him and be hailed as a hero for eliminating the clan's murderer. Sasuke sank to his knees, the full curse mark transformation finally receding as emotional turmoil overwhelmed the seal's influence. I can't. Naruto approached slowly, kneeling before his friend. I'm not asking you to forgive Itachi or Konoha right now. I'm just asking you to consider that there might be more to this story than you've been led to believe. Come back with me and we'll find the truth together. You have my word. For several long moments, Sasuke remained silent, internal conflict evident in his expression. Finally, he looked up, meeting Naruto's steady gaze. If you're lying to me about this, I'm not, Naruto said simply, and I'll help you prove it to yourself. The return journey to Konoha was silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They encountered the retrieval team halfway back, all of them surprised to find Naruto not only alive but with Sasuke voluntarily in tow, the curse mark dormant. How did you convince him? Shikamaru asked privately as they continued toward the village. Naruto's expression was solemn, with a truth he wasn't ready to hear, but needed to anyway. Upon their return, Sasuke was placed under supervised restriction while his case was evaluated. True to his word, Naruto provided him with access to classified files that Tsunade reluctantly authorized, records that, while heavily redacted, contained enough corroborating evidence to support what Naruto had revealed about the Uchiha massacre. This mission marked a significant divergence from the original timeline. Instead of years of separation and growing animosity, Sasuke remained in Konoha, though changed. More withdrawn, more thoughtful, processing the complex truth about his clan and brother while working to overcome the curse mark's influence with Tsunade's medical assistance. For Naruto, the successful retrieval represented more than just completing a mission. It demonstrated the value of his unique approach. combining the tactical wisdom and interpersonal insights gained from his previous life with the powers and knowledge of his current one. In the months that followed, he undertook a series of increasingly challenging missions, each showcasing different aspects of his growing abilities. A diplomatic mission to Sunagakure strengthened the alliance through his developing friendship with Gaara. An infiltration mission to gather intelligence on Akatsuki succeeded where others had failed due to his ability to sense malice and deception through his observation haki. Most significantly, he began investigating Danzo Shimura en route, recognizing in the old Warhawk the same dangerous combination of rigid ideology and absolute moral certainty that had characterized the world government in his previous life. "You're playing a dangerous game," Jiraiya warned during one of their training sessions. "Danzo has operated in the shadows for decades. He has contingencies for his contingencies." Naruto smiled, that knowing smile that still unnerved even those closest to him. "In my experience, the most dangerous opponents are often the most predictable. They believe so completely in their own righteousness that they can't conceive of legitimate opposition." Speaking from experience, the Sannin asked shrewdly. "Let's just say I've dealt with my share of self-appointed arbiters of absolute justice before," Naruto replied, his mind briefly flashing to Admiral Akainu and the 5 elders of his previous world. As his 13th birthday approached, marking nearly a year since the retrieval mission, Naruto made a request of Tsunade that surprised even those who had come to expect the unexpected from him. "I want to learn Kenjutsu," he stated during a private meeting in the Hokage's office. "Specifically, I need a sword that can channel both chakra and my other abilities." Tsunade studied him thoughtfully. "Any particular reason for this sudden interest?" "Not sudden," Naruto corrected gently. "In my previous life, I was a swordsman first and foremost. My fighting style, my techniques, they were all built around my blade, Griffon. As more of my abilities return, I find myself instinctively reaching for a sword that isn't there." After consideration, Tsunade approved his request, assigning him to train with the best Kenjutsu practitioners available in Konoha, while commissioning a special blade from the land of Iron, a chakra-conductive sword designed to Naruto's specifications. When the blade finally arrived, those who knew Naruto best noticed an immediate change in him. With Griffon's spiritual successor in his hand, a straight-bladed sword with subtle wave patterns in the folded steel and a hilt wrapped in red cord, he moved with even greater confidence and precision. The sword became an extension of himself, completing the bridge between who he had been as Shanks and who he was becoming as Naruto. It was during this period that he began developing new techniques that combined the principles of Haki with chakra manipulation. The most notable was what he called Divine Departure, named after the final technique he had used as Shanks. This new version combined Conqueror's Haki, Armament Haki, and the Nine-Tails chakra into a single, devastating slash that could cut through almost any defense. As his reputation grew both within and beyond Konoha's borders, so did the attention focused on him. Akatsuki accelerated their plans, recognizing in the red-haired Jinchuriki a threat to their objectives. Orochimaru, still interested in the Sharingan, but wary of directly confronting Konoha again, turned his attention to other potential vessels while maintaining surveillance on both Uchiha brothers. Most significantly, Danzo began moving against what he perceived as Tsunade's increasingly dangerous indulgence of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Root operatives shadowed Naruto on missions, gathering information on his unusual abilities and seeking weaknesses that could be exploited if necessary. Naruto was aware of this surveillance, but chose not to confront it directly, not yet. Like any good strategist, he understood the value of allowing an opponent to believe they had the upper hand. "Patience was something I had to learn the hard way," he explained to Jiraiya during one of their discussions. "As a young pirate, I was all impulse and action. It took years to understand that sometimes the most powerful move is to wait for the right moment." That moment would come sooner than expected, as the clouds of war began gathering on the horizon. Akatsuki's hunt for the tailed beasts intensified, conflicts between nations escalated, and ancient powers stirred in the shadows. For Naruto Uzumaki, once the legendary red-haired Shanks, the time was approaching to fully unveil what he had become. Not just a Jinchuriki with unusual abilities, but a perfect synthesis of two worlds' greatest powers, guided by the wisdom and experience of a lifetime spent standing against tyranny in all its forms. The search for his place in this new world was ending. The time for decisive action was beginning. The decision to leave Konoha for extended training with Jiraiya came at a pivotal moment. Akatsuki had begun moving more openly, capturing the Jinchuriki of the One Tail and Three Tails. Intelligence suggested they would eventually target all tailed beasts, with the Nine Tails likely reserved for last due to its power and Naruto's unusual capabilities. 2 years, Tsunade had said during their final meeting before departure. That's how long Jiraiya estimates you'll need to fully integrate your unique abilities. Naruto nodded, his hand resting comfortably on the hilt of his sword. At 13, he already carried himself with the unmistakable presence of someone far older and more experienced. 2 years should be sufficient. By then, either Akatsuki will have made their move against the remaining Jinchuriki, or they'll have been delayed enough for us to better understand their ultimate objective. This isn't just about training, is it? Tsunade observed shrewdly. You're removing yourself as a target, giving us time to prepare. Partly, Naruto admitted, but I also need space and freedom to fully reawaken what I once was. The techniques and abilities I possessed as Shanks, they weren't meant for sterile training grounds or carefully controlled environments. They were forged in real battles against impossibly strong opponents. His departure was quiet, with only a few close friends gathered at the gates to see him off. Sakura, now Tsunade's dedicated apprentice, made him promise to return safely. Sasuke, still working through the complex truth about his clan while training under specialized jonin, simply nodded in acknowledgement. Their relationship changed, but not broken by the revelations of the past year. Most surprising was Hinata Hyuga, who approached with uncharacteristic directness to present him with a special sealing scroll containing medical supplies and food pills she had prepared herself. "For your journey, Naruto-kun," she said, her typical shyness tempered by newfound confidence. In this timeline, Naruto's different personality had created a different dynamic with the Hyuga heiress, one of mutual respect rather than oblivious dismissal. "Thank you, Hinata," he replied with genuine appreciation. "Keep growing stronger. Konoha will need shinobi like you in the times ahead." The training journey with Jiraiya took them far beyond the borders of the Fire Country to remote locations where Naruto could unleash his developing powers without restraint or observation. Islands in the land of water where massive stone formations provided perfect targets for his sword techniques. Desert wastelands in the land of wind where he could practice large-scale applications of conqueror's haki without affecting civilian populations. Ancient forests in unexplored territories where he worked on perfecting the harmony between his chakra network and the reawakening haki abilities. Throughout this period, Jiraiya observed with growing amazement as Naruto's true potential unfolded. The integration of his dual nature accelerated dramatically once freed from the constraints of village life and missions. It's like watching two rivers merge into something entirely new. The Sanin commented one evening as they camped beneath the stars. "Your chakra and this haki energy, they're not just coexisting anymore, they're enhancing each other." Naruto nodded, examining his hand where faint red energy coursed just beneath the skin. Not the Nine Tails chakra, but the visible manifestation of advanced conqueror's haki adapting to his chakra network. "In my previous life, haki was purely spiritual energy, willpower made manifest. Here, it's finding resonance with chakra, which already combines physical and spiritual energy. Creating something unprecedented," Jiraiya concluded, "something neither world has seen before." The most significant breakthrough came during their 16th month of training on a remote island known for violent electrical storms. As lightning crashed around them, Naruto stood atop a cliff, his sword raised. Each bolt that struck the blade was absorbed, channeled, and redirected, not through any lightning release jutsu, but through a perfect application of armament haki infused with chakra. "I understand now," Naruto said afterward, his eyes reflecting the lingering electricity in the storm clouds. "The limitation wasn't my body or my chakra network, it was my perception. I've been trying to recreate what I was, when I should have been embracing what I'm becoming. From that realization came a transformation in his approach. Rather than treating his previous abilities as separate from his current ones, Naruto began developing entirely new techniques that could only exist in this perfect synthesis. The divine departure evolved from a singular ultimate technique into a comprehensive fighting style that integrated swordsmanship, haki, and chakra manipulation into a seamless whole. His partnership with Kurama deepened during this period as well. The Nine Tails, initially skeptical of Naruto's claims about reincarnation, had come to respect the human who approached him as an equal rather than a weapon or burden. "Your chakra is changing," the fox observed during one of their mindscape conversations. "It carries echoes of that other power, the haki you speak of." "And your chakra complements it perfectly," Naruto replied, sitting cross-legged before the now modified seal. "Especially Conqueror's haki. Both are expressions of will and dominance." Their cooperation reached new heights when Naruto proposed removing the cage entirely, replacing it with a seal that would prevent the Nine Tails from being extracted while allowing him free movement within the mindscape. "You would trust me with such freedom?" Kurama asked, genuine surprise in his ancient voice. "Trust is earned," Naruto acknowledged. "And you've earned mine. Besides, a partnership works best when both parties maintain their dignity." The modified seal created a transformation in their combined power. Rather than the chakra cloak that Jinchuriki typically manifested, Naruto and Kurama developed what they called harmony mode, a perfect balance where the Nine Tails chakra enhanced Naruto's physical capabilities while his haki stabilized and directed the demonic energy. Physically, this manifested as a subtle but striking change in Naruto's appearance. His red hair took on an almost luminous quality. His eyes shifted to a deep amber with slitted pupils, and faint, flame-like patterns appeared on his skin when he channeled significant power. Unlike the original timeline chakra modes, this transformation was controlled, refined, and could be maintained for extended periods without damage to his body. The final months of their training journey took them to the ruins of Uzushiokure, the destroyed homeland of Naruto's mother's clan. Here, among the scattered remnants of a civilization renowned for their sealing techniques, Naruto connected with his maternal heritage while putting the finishing touches on his transformed fighting style. "They were incredible," he said softly, examining ancient sealing patterns carved into fallen stones. The Uzumaki understood something fundamental about the nature of energy and its containment that even the most advanced shinobi villages never grasped. Jiraiya watched as Naruto integrated these insights into his own techniques, creating seals that could temporarily store and release bursts of his combined Haki chakra energy. "Your mother would be proud," the Sannin observed. "You've honored both your heritages, the one you were born with and the one you carried from another life." As their 2-year journey neared its end, reports from Konoha grew increasingly urgent. Akatsuki had accelerated their timetable, capturing several more Jinchuriki. The shinobi world was moving toward conflict, with alliances forming and dissolving as nations positioned themselves for the coming storm. "It's time to return," Naruto said one morning, sheathing his sword after a final training session that had reshaped the landscape around them. At 15, he had grown taller, his features maturing into a striking resemblance to the man he had once been, combined with echoes of Minato and Kushina. "Are you ready?" Jiraiya asked, studying his student with a mixture of pride and concern. Naruto smiled, that confident, knowing smile that had become his trademark. "As ready as I'll ever be. The real question is the world ready for me?" Their return to Konoha created an immediate sensation. The gates were crowded with curious onlookers eager to glimpse the legendary Jinchuriki, whose exploits had grown to almost mythical proportions during his absence. The red-haired young man who walked through those gates, a legendary Sannin at his side, bore little resemblance to the Genin who had left 2 years earlier. Naruto moved with the unmistakable grace of a master swordsman, his custom blade secured at his hip. His presence was palpable, an aura of controlled power that made even veteran shinobi stand straighter as he passed. Most striking was his expression. Serene confidence combined with the watchful awareness of someone who had faced death countless times and emerged victorious. Tsunade received them in her office, dismissing her ambu guards to speak freely. "You've changed," she observed, studying Naruto carefully. "Even more than I expected." "The integration is complete," he replied simply. "What I was and what I am have finally harmonized." "Just in time, it seems," Tsunade said, her expression growing serious. "Akatsuki has captured 4 Jinchuriki already. Intelligence suggests they're after a specific number of tailed beasts for some larger purpose beyond simply acquiring their power." "The 10 tails," Naruto stated matter-of-factly, surprising both Sanin. "They're trying to recreate the 10 tails by gathering the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts." "How could you possibly know that?" Tsunade demanded. Naruto tapped his temple. "Kurama has memories stretching back to the Sage of Six Paths. Once we established true partnership, those memories became accessible to me. The 9-tailed beasts were originally a single entity, the 10 tails. The sage split it to prevent its power from ever being misused again." "And Akatsuki wants to undo that work," Jiraiya concluded grimly. "For what purpose?" "Ultimate power," Naruto said simply. "The kind that could reshape reality itself through techniques like the infinite Tsukuyomi, a genjutsu cast on the entire world." The scale of the threat left even the experienced Sanin momentarily speechless. It was Tsunade who finally broke the silence. "We need to convene the allied shinobi forces immediately. If what you're saying is true, this isn't just Konoha's problem. It's everyone's." "They won't believe us without proof," Jiraiya cautioned. "The 5 great nations have centuries of distrust and conflict between them." Naruto's expression remained calm. "Then we'll get proof, and more importantly, we'll demonstrate that cooperation is the only path to survival." His reintegration into Konoha's forces began immediately, though his role had evolved far beyond ordinary missions. Officially reinstated as a Chunin, but operating with Jonin-level authority, Naruto was assigned to a special task force focused exclusively on Akatsuki. His reunion with friends and former classmates revealed just how significantly his absence had changed the village's dynamic. Sakura had blossomed into a formidable medical ninja under Tsunade's tutelage. Sasuke, while still processing the truth about his clan, had developed into a powerful shinobi in his own right, his Sharingan abilities refined through specialized training. Most had expected the gap between Naruto and his peers to be significant after his training journey. What they witnessed instead was something beyond ordinary progression, a fundamental transformation that placed him in a category entirely his own. The first demonstration came during what was intended as a friendly sparring session to assess his current capabilities. Paired against a team of 3 Jonin, including Kakashi, Naruto was expected to show restraint while displaying his improved skills. Instead, the gathered observers witnessed something unprecedented. As the match began, Naruto stood perfectly still, his sword sheathed, eyes closed in apparent meditation. The 3 Jonin circled cautiously, aware of his reputation, but confident in their combined experience and skill. Kakashi made the first move, a lightning-fast combination of taijutsu and kunai strikes designed to test Naruto's reflexes. What happened next left everyone present in stunned silence. Without opening his eyes, Naruto sidestepped each attack with fluid precision, his movements so economical that they seemed almost casual. When Kakashi finally overextended slightly, Naruto simply placed 2 fingers against the Jonin's chest, a touch so light it barely disturbed the fabric of his vest. "If this were a real fight," Naruto said quietly, "that would have been a Haki-infused strike to your heart." Before Kakashi could respond, the other 2 Jonin launched their coordinated attack, one using Earth Release to reshape the battlefield, the other creating multiple water clones to surround Naruto from all angles. Still with eyes closed, Naruto finally drew his sword. The blade gleamed with a faint red energy. As he moved through the attacking clones with impossible grace, each stroke was perfectly calculated, eliminating threats without wasted motion. When the earth beneath him suddenly splintered into jagged spikes, he simply leapt upward, landing atop one of the formations with perfect balance. "Enough," he called, finally opening his eyes. The amber glow with slitted pupils momentarily startled even Kakashi. "This exercise isn't productive. You're holding back to avoid hurting me, and I'm holding back to avoid hurting you." "Holding back?" one of the Jonin questioned incredulously. "You haven't even used any jutsu." Naruto sheathed his sword with a fluid motion. I don't need to. To demonstrate his point, he released a carefully controlled pulse of Conqueror's Haki, focused exclusively on the training ground. The invisible wave of pressure cracked the earth in a perfect circle around him, caused nearby trees to bend as if in a strong wind, and made every shinobi within 30 meters instinctively drop into defensive stances as their bodies registered a threat their eyes couldn't see. That, Naruto explained calmly as the pressure dissipated, was approximately 5% of what I can do when not restraining myself. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The red-haired Chunin had transcended conventional measures of shinobi capability. His power wasn't just quantitatively greater, it was qualitatively different, operating on principles that the shinobi world had never encountered before. News of this demonstration spread quickly through Konoha's ranks, eventually reaching Danzo and the village elders. Their response was predictable, concern disguised as caution, fear masked as prudence. He's too powerful to remain unchecked, Danzo argued during an emergency council meeting. No single shinobi should wield such power without proper oversight. Tsunade's response was equally predictable. And who would provide this oversight, Danzo? You and your root operatives? The same group that has repeatedly violated the Third's explicit orders and my own? The political maneuvering continued behind closed doors, but Naruto remained focused on the larger threat. Akatsuki's movements had become more aggressive, with intelligence suggesting an imminent attack on either Tsunagakure to capture Gaara or a direct assault on Konoha itself. They'll come for Gaara first, Naruto stated confidently during a strategy session. He's powerful but less protected than I am. Taking him would demonstrate their capabilities while avoiding direct confrontation with Konoha until they're ready. His assessment proved accurate. Within weeks, reports arrived that Akatsuki members Sasori and Deidara had infiltrated Tsunagakure and successfully captured the one-tailed Jinchuriki despite his valiant defense of his village. Naruto's response was immediate and uncharacteristic of standard protocol. Without waiting for formal mission assignment, he simply informed Tsunade of his intention to rescue Gaara personally. This isn't just about retrieving a Jinchuriki or helping an ally, he explained, his expression unusually serious. Gaara represents something important, a Jinchuriki who found purpose and recognition despite his burden. If Akatsuki extracts the one tail and kills him, it sends a message that even reformed Jinchuriki are ultimately just sacrifices for greater powers. Tsunade studied him thoughtfully. And you believe you can reach him in time? Even our fastest teams would take 3 days to reach Suna. Naruto smiled, that confident smile that still sometimes unnerved her. I can be there by tomorrow morning if I don't hold back. That's physically impossible, she protested, even with soldier pills and chakra enhancement. For an ordinary shinobi, yes, Naruto acknowledged. But I'm not entirely bound by the same limitations anymore. Harmony mode allows me to maintain maximum speed for extended periods without fatigue. After brief deliberation, Tsunade authorized the mission, assigning Team Kakashi to follow as backup. What she and others didn't fully appreciate was just how dramatically Naruto's capabilities had evolved during his training journey. Departing Konoha at dawn, he moved with a speed that would have astonished even Guy with his 8 gates released. The perfect synthesis of Kurama's chakra with his reawakened physical prowess allowed him to cover ground at a pace that defied conventional understanding of human limitations. Trees blurred past as he ran, occasionally using chakra-enhanced leaps to cross larger distances in single bounds. By nightfall, he had covered a distance that would have taken elite Jonin 3 days of hard travel. Without pausing to rest, he continued through the darkness, his enhanced senses navigating the terrain flawlessly. As the desert region approached, he adapted his technique, using bursts of concentrated chakra to practically glide across the shifting sands. He reached the borders of Tsunagakure shortly after sunrise the following day, exactly as he had predicted. The village was in chaos, still reeling from Gaara's abduction and the revelation that one of their council elders had been Sasori in disguise for years. Without waiting for formal introductions or briefings, Naruto immediately focused on tracking Gaara's chakra signature. Using a combination of observation haki and the sensory abilities he had developed with Kurama, he detected faint traces of the One-Tail's energy leading northeast. They have approximately 8 hours head start, he informed Temari, who had rushed to meet him upon hearing of his arrival. Their extraction process requires time and specific conditions. If I leave immediately, I can intercept them before they begin. Temari stared at him in amazement, taking in his transformed appearance and the absolute certainty with which he spoke. You came alone? Where's the rest of your team? Following behind, Naruto replied, already turning to leave. But this can't wait for them. Every minute counts. Then I'm coming with you, she insisted. Naruto shook his head. You wouldn't be able to keep up, and I can't afford to moderate my pace. Trust me, Temari, I'll bring him back. Before she could protest further, he was gone, leaving only a swirl of sand in his wake. Moving even faster now with the knowledge that time was critical, Naruto pushed his harmony mode to new limits. The golden red energy of perfectly balanced haki and chakra surrounded him like a comet's tail as he crossed the desert landscape. His pursuit led him to a hidden cave system where the Akatsuki had established one of their extraction sites. The massive boulder sealing the entrance was inscribed with complex fuinjutsu that would have challenged even expert shinobi to unravel. Naruto didn't bother with such subtleties. Drawing his sword, he channeled a concentrated combination of armament, haki, and chakra into the blade. The steel took on a deep crimson-black sheen as he delivered a single, precise slash. The boulder didn't simply break, it disintegrated, reduced to fine particles by the perfect cutting edge created by his combined powers. Inside, Sasori and Deidara turned in shock at the unexpected intrusion. Behind them, Gaara lay unconscious on a stone altar, the extraction process in its preliminary stages, as they prepared to connect with other Akatsuki members through astral projection. Impossible, Deidara muttered, his visible eye widening. No one could have tracked us this quickly. Naruto stepped forward, his sword still drawn, his expression coldly determined. Step away from him. Now. Sasori, encased in his Hiriko puppet, assessed the intruder with calculating precision. The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, delivering himself to us. How convenient. I'm not here to be captured, Naruto replied, his voice carrying that unmistakable weight of authority that had once commanded respect across the Grand Line. I'm here for Gaara, and to deliver a message to your leader. Oh, and what message would that be? Deidara asked, already molding explosive clay in his palm mouths. Without warning, Naruto released a wave of pure conqueror's haki that filled the entire cavern. The pressure was so intense that cracks spiderwebbed across the stone walls and ceiling. Both Akatsuki members visibly staggered, even Sasori within his puppet armor, feeling the overwhelming force of pure will. The message is simple, Naruto said, taking another step forward as the pressure intensified. The Jinchuriki are not your sacrificial lambs. We are not stepping stones to your ambition. And I, specifically, am not someone you want as an enemy. Deidara recovered first, launching a barrage of explosive clay birds that darted toward Naruto with impressive speed. Big words from someone outnumbered, yeah? What followed demonstrated just how fundamentally Naruto had transcended ordinary shinobi combat. Rather than dodging or using jutsu to counter, he simply swept his sword in a horizontal arc, releasing a thin line of concentrated haki chakra that sliced through every clay construct before they could detonate. Simultaneously, he stomped his foot once, channeling energy downward into the cave floor. The stone beneath Sasori suddenly cratered, destabilizing the puppet master and forcing him to leap awkwardly aside. Retreat is your only viable option, Naruto stated calmly, continuing his advance. You cannot win this fight. Not here. Not against me. Sasori, not one to be easily intimidated, launched a barrage of poison senbon from his puppet's mouth. Thousands of needles filled the air, creating a wall of deadly projectiles impossible to fully dodge or block. Naruto didn't attempt either. Instead, he channeled armament haki throughout his entire body, creating an invisible armor that caused the senbon to simply bounce off harmlessly. Those that came too near his sword were caught in its slipstream and redirected back towards Sasori. What is this technique? The puppet master demanded, genuine confusion in his voice. This isn't any chakra nature I recognize. Because it isn't chakra, at least not entirely, Naruto replied, now close enough that he could see the alarm in Deidara's visible eye. It's something your organization has never encountered before, something beyond your calculations. Realizing the severity of their situation, Deidara created a larger explosive, a C3 dragon designed to collapse the entire cave system. If we can't have the one tail, no one will, yeah! Before the explosive artist could detonate his creation, Naruto moved with blinding speed. One moment he was 10 paces away. The next, he stood directly before Deidara, sword sheathed but hand raised in what appeared to be a simple palm strike. The impact, however, was anything but simple. The perfectly concentrated burst of Conqueror's Haki, combined with precise chakra control, hit Deidara with such force that he was blasted backward through the cave wall, his clay dragon dispersing harmlessly as his concentration shattered. Sasori, recognizing that the situation had become untenable, abandoned his damaged Hiriko puppet and revealed his true form, the preserved body of his younger self, modified into a human puppet. You're more formidable than our intelligence suggested, he acknowledged, but capturing the nine tails was always a long-term objective. Today, we'll settle for the one tail. He launched a final, desperate attack, a swarm of puppets from his red secret technique, performance of 100 puppets. The cave filled with the wooden constructs, each armed with various deadly weapons and poisons. Naruto's response was definitive. Drawing his sword once more, he channeled the full power of his harmony mode into the blade. The energy that surrounded him intensified, taking on a form reminiscent of the nine tails while crackling with the crimson lightning of advanced Conqueror's Haki. Divine departure, sovereign's domain, he announced calmly. The technique that followed wasn't simply an attack. It was a declaration of absolute authority over the physical space around him. With a single circular slash, Naruto created a sphere of pure destructive energy that expanded outward with perfect control. Every puppet caught within its radius wasn't just destroyed, it was disintegrated, reduced to its component particles. Sasori himself barely escaped the technique's edge, losing several parts of his puppet body in the process. His eyes, the only human part remaining of the once great puppet master, widened in genuine fear. "What are you?" he whispered. Naruto sheathed his sword once more, the overwhelming energy around him receding, but not disappearing entirely. Someone who understands what it means to carry the weight of immense power. Someone who knows the difference between ambition and tyranny. Remember that when you report back to pain. Recognizing defeat, Sasori retreated, following the path Deidara had involuntarily taken through the shattered cave wall. Naruto let them go, turning his attention immediately to Gaara, who remained unconscious on the altar. A quick assessment confirmed that the extraction process had barely begun. The one tail was still fully sealed within Gaara, though the force suppression technique had left the Kazekage's chakra network severely strained. Gathering his friend carefully, Naruto began the journey back to Sunagakure. Though moving more carefully now with his injured charge, his pace remained far beyond normal shinobi capabilities. By late afternoon, he reached the village gates, where a crowd had gathered in anxious anticipation. The sight of their Kazekage, alive and relatively unharmed, triggered a wave of jubilation that swept through Suna's population. Medical ninja immediately took charge of Gaara, while officials bombarded Naruto with questions about the Akatsuki members and their techniques. It was Gaara himself who silenced the commotion when he regained consciousness hours later. Insisting on seeing Naruto immediately despite his medical team's protests, the Kazekage received his rescuer in private. "You came alone?" Gaara observed, his voice still weak but his gaze sharp as ever. "Against two Akatsuki members." Naruto nodded. "There wasn't time for a team approach. And you defeated them. It wasn't a question." "I convinced them that pursuing you wasn't worth the cost," Naruto clarified. "They'll report back to their leader, reassess their approach. It buys us time." Gaara studied him with the penetrating gaze that had made even veteran council members uncomfortable. "You've changed. Your power, it's different now. I've integrated what I was with what I am," Naruto explained simply. "Found harmony between my past life's abilities and this world's energies." The Kazekage nodded slowly, accepting this cryptic explanation without further questions. They had developed a unique understanding over the years, two Jinchuriki who had walked different paths but found common ground in their determination to transcend the limitations others placed on them. Suna stands with Konoha, Gaara stated firmly. When Akatsuki moves again, and they will, we face them together. Team Kakashi arrived the following day, having pushed themselves to their limits, but still taking 3 days for a journey Naruto had completed in less than 1. Their surprise at finding the mission already successfully completed quickly gave way to analytical interest in what exactly had transpired. You faced Sasori of the Red Sand and Deidara alone and forced them to retreat? Kakashi questioned, his visible eye narrowed in thought. Without suffering any significant injuries yourself? Naruto nodded, providing a detailed but carefully edited account of the confrontation. He emphasized the tactical elements while downplaying the true extent of the power he had displayed. Even so, Kakashi's analytical mind filled in the gaps. This harmony mode you've developed, the copy ninja observed. It's not just a more refined version of the Nine-Tails chakra, is it? It's something entirely new. Yes, Naruto acknowledged. Something that exists at the intersection of 2 different power systems. Jiraiya-sensei and I spent most of our training journey developing it. The return journey to Konoha provided time for deeper reflection. While his teammates traveled conventionally, Naruto moved at his own pace, sometimes scouting ahead, sometimes dropping back to ensure their security. This semi-independence within the team structure reflected his evolving role, not quite a standard shinobi, but something unique unto himself. Word of his successful rescue of the Kazekage spread quickly through the shinobi world. The details grew with each retelling, some versions claiming he had defeated the entire Akatsuki organization single-handedly, others suggesting he had developed some secret Uzumaki technique thought lost with the clan's destruction. The truth, as Naruto well knew, was both simpler and more complex. His power wasn't derived from secret techniques or bloodline abilities, but from the perfect integration of 2 lifetimes, the wisdom, experience, and Haki mastery of Shanks, combined with the natural talents, chakra system, and Jinchuriki status of Naruto Uzumaki. Upon returning to Konoha, he found the village's perception of him fundamentally altered. No longer was he viewed as merely an unusually talented chunin or even a powerful Jinchuriki. He had become something almost mythic in the eyes of many, a guardian figure whose power transcended normal shinobi limitations. This perception extended to the highest levels of Konoha's leadership. In a private meeting with Tsunade following his return, the Hokage made a decision that acknowledged his unique status. "I'm officially promoting you to Jonin," she informed him. Though in truth, conventional ranks seem increasingly irrelevant in your case. Naruto accepted the promotion with a respectful nod. "Thank you, Lady Hokage. Though as you say, the rank matters less than the responsibility it represents." Which brings me to my next point, Tsunade continued. "I'm establishing a special division under your direct command. Your mission will be to counter Akatsuki directly, gathering intelligence, disrupting their operations, and protecting the remaining Jinchuriki. The formation of this unit, informally known as the Red Division, due to their commander's distinctive hair, marked the beginning of a new phase in the conflict with Akatsuki. Rather than reacting to the organization's moves, Konoha would take the initiative, forcing Pain and his subordinates to defend rather than attack. For Naruto himself, this represented the full circle of his transformation. From the legendary pirate captain he had once been to the shinobi leader he had become, the core of his identity remained unchanged. A man who stood for freedom, who protected those under his care, and who faced overwhelming odds with unshakable resolve. As he assembled his team, a carefully selected group that included specialists from multiple villages, an unprecedented level of cooperation facilitated by his growing reputation, Naruto reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. "In my previous life," he explained to his newly formed unit during their first gathering, "I commanded a crew that sailed the most dangerous seas imaginable. We faced enemies that could shatter islands with a gesture, governments that controlled entire oceans, creatures that dwarfed the largest buildings you've ever seen." He paused, looking each member in the eye, establishing the connection that had once made his pirate crew one of the most loyal and effective in the Grand Line. What made us successful wasn't just power, though we had that in abundance. It was understanding. Understanding that true strength comes from knowing exactly who you are and what you stand for. Understanding that some principles are worth any sacrifice. Understanding that together, we could accomplish what no individual, no matter how powerful, could achieve alone. His words resonated in a way that mere rank or authority never could. In that moment, the shinobi from different villages, different backgrounds, different philosophies, recognized something in the red-haired jonin, something timeless and authentic that transcended the normal politics and posturing of the shinobi world. As the sun set over Konoha that evening, Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument, looking out over the village that had become his home in this second life. At 16, he had already lived more than most shinobi would in several lifetimes. He had died as one legend and was well on his way to becoming another. The wind stirred his red hair as he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword, the physical manifestation of the bridge between his past and present. In the fading light, he could almost imagine the endless ocean stretching before him instead of the forest surrounding Konoha, could almost hear the creak of a ship's timbers instead of the distant sounds of the village below. Different world, he murmured to himself. Same battle. The days following the formation of the Red Division marked a fundamental shift in the conflict with Akatsuki. Rather than waiting for the mysterious organization to make their next move, Naruto led his specialized team on proactive missions to disrupt their operations across the shinobi world. His unique unit comprised elite specialists from multiple villages, a testament to his growing influence across national boundaries. Neji Hyuga's Byakugan provided unparalleled reconnaissance capabilities. Tamari of the Sand contributed devastating long-range attacks. Darui from Kumogakure brought lightning release techniques that complemented Naruto's sword style. Each member had been personally selected, not just for their combat abilities, but for their willingness to embrace a new paradigm of shinobi cooperation. "We're tracking patterns," Naruto explained during a strategy session, his finger tracing lines across a map spread on the table. Akatsuki doesn't just hunt Jinchuriki randomly, they're following a specific sequence based on the stability of each tailed beast's seal, which puts the 3 tails and 6 tails as their likely next targets, Neji observed, studying the intelligence they had gathered. Naruto nodded. Exactly. And while conventional wisdom would suggest we fortify those Jinchuriki's positions, I propose something different. His strategy was characteristically bold. Rather than strengthening defenses around potential targets, the Red Division would launch simultaneous strikes against known Akatsuki hideouts, forcing the organization to defend their infrastructure instead of pursuing their objectives. "We'll hit them from angles they don't expect," Naruto continued, his eyes taking on that distant quality that often appeared when he drew on Shanks' strategic experience. Akatsuki operates under the assumption that the shinobi villages are too divided to coordinate effectively. We'll prove them wrong. The operations that followed demonstrated just how profoundly Naruto's dual nature enhanced his leadership. The tactical precision that had once guided the red-hair pirates through the treacherous politics of the Grand Line now directed elite shinobi through equally complex missions. Their first major success came with the discovery and neutralization of Akatsuki's banking network. Following financial trails that other shinobi might have overlooked, Naruto's team identified the bounty stations and money laundering operations that funded the organization's activities. "In my previous life," he explained to his puzzled team as they prepared to raid a seemingly ordinary merchant outpost, "I learned that even the most powerful enemies can be weakened by cutting off their resources. Pirates or missing nin, everyone needs money." The systematic dismantling of Akatsuki's financial structure forced the organization to accelerate their timetable. Intelligence gathered from captured operatives indicated that Pain was planning something unprecedented, a direct assault on Konoha itself to capture the Ninetales Jinchuriki. "They're getting desperate," Tsunade observed during an emergency council meeting. "Your operations have backed them into a corner." Naruto nodded, his expression somber. "Which makes them more dangerous. Pain won't just send a team this time. He'll come himself." "You've encountered him before?" Danzo questioned, His visible eye narrowed with suspicion. "Not directly," Naruto replied, meeting the elder's gaze steadily. "But I understand his type. In my previous life, I faced leaders who believed their vision justified any means. Men who would sacrifice thousands for what they considered the greater good. The skepticism that might once have greeted such statements had long since faded. Naruto's demonstrated abilities and uncanny insights had established his claims about reincarnation as accepted fact among Konoha's leadership, however unusual they might seem." "What do you propose?" Tsunade asked. "Let them come," Naruto said simply, "but on our terms. Pain expects to face a village unprepared for his specific abilities. We'll ensure he finds exactly the opposite." The preparations that followed transformed Konoha in subtle but significant ways. Under Naruto's direction, evacuation protocols were refined, defense systems reconfigured, and most importantly, a special task force was established to counter the Rinnegan's unique capabilities. When word arrived that Pain had been sighted within a day's travel of the village, Naruto made a decision that surprised even his closest allies. "I'll meet him outside the village," he announced during the final strategy session. "Alone." "That's too risky," Tsunade protested immediately. "Even with your abilities." "With respect, Lady Hokage," Naruto interrupted gently, "this is precisely what I've been preparing for. Pain's objective is me. If he finds me waiting beyond the village boundaries, he'll focus on that confrontation rather than causing widespread destruction to flush me out." After lengthy debate, a compromise was reached. Naruto would indeed face Pain outside the village, but with strategic support positions established to provide assistance if necessary. The civilian population would be evacuated to the emergency shelters, and the village's defensive forces would remain on high alert. As dawn broke on the day of the anticipated attack, Naruto stood atop a hill overlooking the approach to Konoha. His red hair stirred in the morning breeze, his hand resting comfortably on the hilt of his sword. In this moment of quiet anticipation, he reflected on the parallel battles he had fought across 2 lifetimes. In his previous existence as Shanks, he had faced Admiral Akainu in a similar confrontation, one powerful figure standing against another's destructive ideology. The stakes felt eerily similar, though the battleground had changed from ocean to forest. His meditation was interrupted by the appearance of 6 figures on the horizon, the 6 paths of Pain, advancing with mechanical precision toward Konoha. Though they maintained their distance from each other for tactical advantage, all 6 converged on a single point, the red-haired Jonin waiting calmly on the hillside. Naruto Uzumaki, the Devapath, spoke as they drew near, his Rinnegan eyes studying the solitary figure before them. "The Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. You've saved us the trouble of searching for you." Naruto's posture remained relaxed, almost casual, a stance that had once unnerved pirate captains and marine admirals alike with its implication of absolute confidence. "Nagato," he replied, addressing the consciousness behind the 6 bodies. "Or do you prefer Pain in this context? I've been looking forward to our conversation." The Devapath's expression flickered with momentary surprise at Naruto's knowledge of his true identity. "There is nothing to discuss. You will come with us, or Konoha will experience true pain." "I disagree," Naruto said mildly. "There's quite a lot to discuss. Your history in the Rain Village, your training under Jiraiya alongside Konan and Yahiko, the loss that transformed you from an idealistic orphan into the leader of Akatsuki, the Rinnegan that Madara Uchiha implanted in you as a child." Each revelation landed like a physical blow, causing visible shock to register on the faces of all 6 paths. The precision of Naruto's knowledge, details that should have been impossible for anyone to know, momentarily disrupted the carefully constructed persona of Pain. "How could you possibly know these things?" Naruto finished for him. "The same way I know that your real body is hidden miles from here, channeling your chakra through black receivers embedded in these corpses. The same way I know that your ultimate goal isn't simply collecting the tailed beasts, but using them to create a weapon so terrible that it would traumatize the world into temporary peace." The Devapath's eyes narrowed. "You speak as if you've seen the future." "Not the future," Naruto corrected. "Just patterns that repeat across worlds and lifetimes. The belief that overwhelming force can create lasting peace. The conviction that pain is the only teacher humanity respects. The certainty that your vision justifies any means necessary to achieve it. As he spoke, Naruto subtly shifted his stance, not into an aggressive posture, but into the perfectly balanced readiness that had characterized Shanks in moments before battle. His senses, enhanced by observation haki, tracked the minute adjustments of all 6 bodies as they prepared to attack. Enough philosophy, the Deva Path declared. If you will not come willingly, we will take you by force. The assault began with coordinated precision. The animal path summoned massive creatures that charged forward, while the Ashura path transformed its body into a living weapon platform. The human path and Naraka path moved to flank Naruto, while the Prita path positioned itself to absorb any chakra-based counterattacks. The Deva path remained centered, prepared to use its gravitational techniques at the optimal moment. What happened next would later be described by distant observers as something beyond ordinary shinobi combat. Naruto remained completely still until the precise moment when the first summoned beast, a massive rhino, was about to make contact. Then, with a movement almost too fast to follow, he drew his sword and delivered a single slash that split the creature in half without triggering its chakra-based summoning contract. Divine Departure, first verse, he announced calmly. The technique wasn't just a physical attack. The slash carried with it a wave of Conqueror's haki, so concentrated that it disrupted the chakra connection between the animal path and its remaining summons. The creatures didn't simply disappear. They momentarily froze before turning toward their summoner in confusion, their wills temporarily dominated by a stronger force. Without pausing, Naruto pivoted to face the Asura path, which had launched a barrage of missiles and projectiles toward him. Rather than dodging or creating a defensive technique, he simply raised his left hand, palm forward. The thing about mechanical attachments, he said conversationally, is that they're ultimately extensions of will, and will is my domain. A pulse of Conqueror's haki, focused exclusively on the approaching projectiles, caused them to detonate prematurely or veer off course. Those that continued forward met his sword, which now gleamed with the distinctive black sheen of armament haki, combined with wind nature chakra. The Deva Path, recognizing the unexpected threat, activated Shinra Tensei, the almighty push that should have sent Naruto flying backward with devastating force. Instead, the red-haired Jonin drove his sword into the ground and channeled a combination of armament haki and chakra through his entire body, anchoring himself against the gravitational onslaught. Impressive, he acknowledged as the technique subsided. But gravity manipulation isn't so different from the pressure exerted by Conqueror's haki. Both involve imposing your will on the physical world. To demonstrate his point, Naruto released a concentrated burst of Haoshoku no Haki directly at the Deva Path. The invisible force hit with such precision that it specifically targeted the black receiver embedded in the corpse's neck, the primary conduit for Nagato's chakra control. The disruption was momentary, but significant. For a crucial few seconds, the Deva Path's movements became jerky and uncoordinated as Nagato re-established his connection. Taking advantage of this opening, Naruto launched his first truly offensive move of the battle. Combining the blinding speed he had mastered as Shanks with the chakra enhancement of a Jonin-level shinobi, he moved between the 6 bodies with fluid precision. Each motion was perfectly calculated, each strike targeting the specific black receivers that enabled Nagato's control. Crimson Flash, he murmured, his form seeming to blur between locations. The paths attempted to counter, with the Prita path moving to absorb his chakra, and the human path reaching to extract his soul. Both found their techniques ineffective against an opponent who could seamlessly switch between chakra-based ninjutsu and the entirely different energy system of Haki. When the Prita path grasped Naruto's arm to absorb his chakra, it encountered something unexpected. The chakra flow simply redirected while a surge of pure armament haki traveled up through the contact point, shattering the black receiver hidden in the corpse's shoulder. Similarly, when the human path attempted its soul extraction technique, it met an immovable wall of Conqueror's haki, a will so indomitable that the intrusive technique couldn't find purchase. Your Rinnegan gives you mastery over the 6 paths of ninjutsu, Naruto observed as he disengaged, putting slight distance between himself and the increasingly damaged paths. But there are forms of power that exist outside that system entirely. The Deva path, having recovered from the earlier disruption, raised its hand for another gravitational attack. This time, however, Naruto didn't attempt to resist. Instead, he channeled his combined energies into his sword, which began to glow with an intense crimson light. Divine Departure, Sovereign's Domain, he announced. The slash that followed wasn't aimed directly at any of the paths. Instead, it cut through reality itself, creating a visible distortion in the air that expanded outward in a perfect circle. As this wave of concentrated Haki chakra passed through each of the 6 paths, it severed Nagato's control connections without damaging the bodies themselves. All 6 paths froze simultaneously, their Rinnegan eyes widening in shock as they experienced something unprecedented, complete disconnection from their controller without physical destruction. Naruto sheathed his sword with a fluid motion. "I've severed your chakra connections to these bodies, Nagato. Not permanently, you're too skilled for that, but long enough for us to have a proper conversation." "How?" the Deva path managed to ask before its voice failed. That's the last remnants of Nagato's chakra fading from its system. "By understanding the nature of your technique better than you do," Naruto replied simply. "The black receivers don't just transmit your chakra, they establish a resonance between your will and these vessels. By introducing a stronger willpower, what my previous life knew as Conqueror's Haki, I've temporarily overwhelmed that connection." With the 6 paths temporarily neutralized, Naruto did something unexpected. Rather than destroying them or attempting to locate Nagato's true body, he sat cross-legged on the ground, placed his sword across his knees, and closed his eyes in apparent meditation. Inside his mindscape, a different conversation was taking place. "You could have destroyed them all," Kurama observed, the massive fox regarding his host with curious eyes. "Why didn't you?" "Because this isn't about defeating pain," Naruto replied, standing before the Nine Tails not as a jailer, but as a partner. "It's about addressing the cycle that created him. The same cycle that created you, in many ways." Kurama's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "You believe you can talk the Rinnegan wielder out of his path? After all he's done?" "I believe I can help him remember who he was before pain became his only teacher," Naruto responded. "Just as I helped you remember there was more to your existence than rage and confinement." Back in the physical world, Naruto opened his eyes to find the 6 paths beginning to twitch as Nagato re-established his connections. Rather than preparing for renewed combat, the red-haired Jonin simply waited, his posture relaxed but alert. "Your technique is impressive," the Deva path spoke as it regained full functionality. "But temporary. Why didn't you press your advantage?" "Because defeating you in battle isn't my objective," Naruto replied. "Understanding you is." This response seemed to genuinely confuse Pain. "Understanding? What purpose would that serve?" "In my previous life," Naruto explained, "I learned that the most dangerous enemies aren't those with the greatest power, but those with the deepest conviction. You believe absolutely in your vision of peace through pain. I respect the conviction, if not the method." For several long moments, the 6 paths remained motionless, as if Nagato was considering this unexpected approach. Finally, the Deva path spoke again. "You claim to have lived another life, to possess knowledge impossible for someone your age. Prove it. Tell me something only Jiraiya-sensei would know about my past." Naruto nodded, accepting the challenge. "When you were children, you, Konan, and Yahiko, Jiraiya taught you a particular hand sign combination for synchronizing your attacks. Yahiko called it the triangle formation. You practiced it in the abandoned building where you lived, using it successfully for the first time against a group of Amegakure Chunin who had been hunting you for food supplies." The precision of this memory, something never recorded in any mission report or bingo book, visibly shook the Deva path's composure. "How could you possibly know that?" Naruto finished for him. "Jiraiya shared that story with me during our training journey. He spoke of you often, the students he considered his greatest success and his greatest failure simultaneously. The orphans who taught him as much as he taught them. This personal connection, more than any display of power, created the opening Naruto had been seeking. For the first time, he was speaking not to Pain the Akatsuki leader, but to Nagato, the orphan student of Jiraiya. What happened to Yahiko wasn't your fault, Naruto continued, pressing this advantage. Hanzo and Danzo manipulated events to destroy any possibility of the peace you three were creating in Amegakure. They feared your revolution because it threatened their power, not because it was wrong. The mention of Danzo's involvement, a detail known to very few, caused all 6 paths to physically react, their Rinnegan eyes widening in synchronized shock. Danzo Shimura, the Deva path, almost whispered, "You know of his role? I know he collaborated with Hanzo to ambush your group, using Root Ambu to ensure Yahiko's death and your subsequent radicalization," Naruto confirmed. "I know he collected Sharingan eyes from massacred Uchiha, implanting them in his arm and using Izanagi to escape death. I know he operates in what he considers Konoha's best interests while undermining the very principles the village was founded upon." This revelation created a fundamental shift in the confrontation. The 6 paths regrouped, no longer in attack formation, but in a circular pattern that suggested internal consultation. "If what you say is true," the Deva path finally spoke, "then you understand that the shinobi system itself is broken beyond repair. Villages speak of peace while preparing for war. Kage negotiate treaties while dispatching assassins. Children are trained as weapons, then discarded when broken." Naruto nodded, acknowledging the truth in Pain's assessment. The system is flawed, yes, but destroying it without having something better to replace it only creates a vacuum for worse systems to emerge. "And what would you propose instead?" There was genuine curiosity in the question. "In my previous life," Naruto replied, "I witnessed a world government that claimed absolute justice while practicing systematic oppression. I also saw isolated communities that governed themselves with wisdom and compassion. The difference wasn't the structure of their systems, but the values that guided their implementation." He stood, sheathing his sword in a gesture of temporary trust. "The world you envision, one where people truly understand each other's pain, is worth pursuing. But inflicting more pain isn't the path to that understanding. It just perpetuates the cycle." For what seemed like an eternity, the 6 paths remained silent, their Rinnegan eyes fixed on the red-haired Jonin, who spoke with the wisdom of someone who had witnessed the rise and fall of nations across multiple lifetimes. Then, unexpectedly, all 6 bodies simultaneously performed a hand sign that Naruto recognized from Jiraiya's stories, the triangle formation that the 3 orphans had once used to synchronize their attacks. "Jiraiya always believed in the possibility of understanding between people," the Deva path said quietly, "even when evidence suggested otherwise. He would have appreciated your approach, Naruto Uzumaki." What followed wasn't a resolution, but an agreement to continue their conversation under different circumstances. Pain would withdraw temporarily, considering what he had learned about Danzo's direct involvement in Yahiko's death. In return, Naruto promised to provide evidence of Root's operations and the Elder's collection of Sharingan. As the 6 paths departed, Naruto remained on the hillside, watching until they disappeared from sight. He knew this wasn't a victory in the conventional sense. Pain's fundamental ideology hadn't changed, but a crack had formed in the certainty that had driven Nato's actions for decades. Sometimes, as both Shanks and Naruto had learned across 2 lifetimes, the most important battles weren't won through superior force, but through unexpected connections. The aftermath of this encounter rippled through the shinobi world in ways few could have anticipated. Word spread of how the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki had confronted the 6 paths of pain alone and fought them to a standstill, not through overwhelming power, but through a combination of unprecedented techniques and an almost supernatural insight into their controller's past. More significantly, the intelligence Naruto provided to Nagato about Danzo's operations created unforeseen consequences. 2 weeks after their confrontation, Root headquarters was found abandoned, its extensive archives mysteriously emptied. Danzo himself disappeared during a scheduled council meeting, leaving behind only a blood-stained bandage from his arm. Reports eventually filtered back to Konoha, describing a devastating battle in an undisclosed location between the leader of Akatsuki and the head of Root, a conflict that reportedly leveled an entire mountain range before concluding with Danzo's death and Nagato's severe injury. Poetic justice, in a way, Tsunade commented when the intelligence was confirmed, the manipulator finally facing the consequences of his manipulations. Naruto, who had been present for the briefing, nodded solemnly. Danzo represented everything wrong with the old system, the belief that shadows and secrets could create lasting security. His removal creates an opportunity for something better to take root. The power vacuum left by these events accelerated changes already underway in the shinobi world. With Akatsuki temporarily directionless following Nagato's injury and withdrawal, and Root dissolved after Danzo's death, the traditional power structures began to shift. Most significantly, Naruto's Red Division evolved from a specialized anti-Akatsuki unit into something more fundamental, a cross-village organization dedicated to addressing threats that transcended national boundaries. Under his leadership, shinobi from former enemy nations learned to work together, sharing techniques and perspectives that had previously been jealously guarded secrets. This unprecedented cooperation caught the attention of a figure who had been observing events from the shadows, Obito Uchiha, still operating under the guise of Madara while manipulating what remained of Akatsuki. The red-haired Jinchuriki becomes more troublesome by the day, he observed to Zetsu as they watched Naruto's team dismantle another of their operations. His influence spreads like a contagion, making people question assumptions that have governed the shinobi world for centuries. Should we accelerate our plans? The white half of Zetsu inquired. No, Obito replied after consideration. We adapt them. The Moon's Eye plan doesn't require Akatsuki specifically, just the tailed beasts and the Rinnegan. If direct confrontation with Uzumaki is becoming increasingly disadvantageous, we'll approach from angles he doesn't expect. This strategic pivot marked the beginning of the conflict's final phase. Rather than targeting Jinchuriki directly, Obito began maneuvering to unearth the Gedo statue and revive the Ten Tails through alternative means, using fragments of tailed beast chakra harvested over decades by Zetsu, combined with the chakra already collected from captured Jinchuriki. Simultaneously, he accelerated preparations to exploit the fractured trust between the five great nations, planting evidence of betrayals and double dealings designed to unravel the fragile cooperation that Naruto's influence had fostered. It was during this period that Naruto's unique perspective proved most valuable. Having witnessed similar manipulations in his previous life, how the world government had deliberately sown discord between potential allies, he recognized patterns that others might have missed. These incidents aren't random, he explained during an emergency summit of village representatives. They're calculated to trigger specific historical animosities between our nations. The assassination attempt on the Raikage using Leaf Village kunai, the intercepted orders from the Mizukage to infiltrate Sand's defenses, the supposedly leaked intelligence from Stone about Water's military buildup. They're all designed to make us distrust each other. And who would benefit from such manipulations? The Tsuchikage demanded skeptically. Naruto's response was measured but direct. The same entity that has been collecting tailed beasts, the same shadow that controlled Akatsuki from behind pain, the figure calling himself Madara Uchiha, though that identity itself is another layer of deception. His assertion that Madara was actually Obito Uchiha, believed dead since the Third Shinobi War, initially met with disbelief. Yet the evidence he presented, combined with Kakashi's reluctant confirmation of certain timeline inconsistencies, gradually convinced the assembled leaders. If what you're saying is true, the Raikage acknowledged, then we've been manipulated into conflicts that serve someone else's agenda for generations. Exactly, Naruto confirmed. The hostility between our villages has never been entirely organic. It's been cultivated and exploited by those who benefit from our division. This revelation, coupled with the increasing evidence of Obito's activities, led to an unprecedented development: the formal establishment of the allied shinobi forces, with representatives from all 5 major villages united under a single command structure. Most remarkably, when the question of leadership arose, it was the traditionally adversarial Raikage who proposed a solution that would have been unthinkable months earlier. The Red Division has already demonstrated what's possible when shinobi from different villages work together, he stated gruffly. Its commander understands our enemy better than anyone. Logic suggests he should lead our combined forces as well. Thus, at 17, Naruto Uzumaki found himself in a position that paralleled his previous life in an unexpected way, commanding an alliance of former rivals against a threat that endangered their shared world. The responsibilities echoed those he had carried as one of the Yonko, balancing competing interests while maintaining focus on the larger conflict. The war that followed unfolded differently than it might have in another timeline, with earlier cooperation between villages, greater transparency about Obito's true identity and objectives, and most significantly, Naruto's unique strategic insights. The allied shinobi forces moved proactively rather than reactively. Instead of waiting for the Ten Tails revival, they launched coordinated strikes against the sites where Zetsu was harvesting and storing tailed beast chakra. Rather than confronting Kabuto's Edo Tensei army after reanimation, intelligence units identified and secured the DNA sources he would need for the technique. Most crucially, Naruto personally led a mission to locate and secure the injured Nagato before Obito could acquire his Rinnegan. This operation, conducted with a small elite team including Sasuke Uchiha, represented the culmination of the approach that had defined his leadership, addressing root causes rather than symptoms, building bridges rather than walls. They found Nagato and Konan in a hidden sanctuary within Amegakure, the former Akatsuki leader severely weakened but alive. Their arrival came mere hours before Obito's planned assault to claim the Rinnegan eyes. "You came yourself," Nagato observed as Naruto entered the chamber where he was maintained on life support systems. "Not just to secure the Rinnegan, but to continue our conversation." Naruto nodded, approaching with respect rather than triumph. The eyes are secondary. Understanding is primary, just as it was on the hillside. What transpired in that chamber would later be described by Konan as a meeting of worlds, not just the physical world of the living in Nagato's proximity to death, but the philosophical worlds represented by their different paths. "Your approach has validated Yahiko's original vision in ways I couldn't see," Nagato acknowledged after hours of honest exchange. "The allied shinobi forces represent precisely the kind of cooperation we once dreamed might be possible. But achieved through understanding rather than force," Naruto added gently. Nagato's emaciated features formed a ghost of a smile. "Jiraiya would say you proved his point about breaking the cycle of hatred, that it's possible to change the world without becoming what you fight against." The arrival of Obito's forces, white Zetsu clones led by the masked Uchiha himself, interrupted their philosophical discussion. The battle that followed would become legendary even in a world accustomed to extraordinary conflicts. Naruto, Sasuke, and their small team faced an army designed specifically to counter conventional shinobi techniques. The white Zetsu possessed the ability to absorb and copy chakra, while Obito's space-time ninjutsu made him virtually untouchable through standard approaches. It was here that Naruto's unique synthesis of abilities proved most decisive. As Sasuke engaged Obito with his Sharingan-based techniques, creating openings through predictive analysis of the space-time jutsu, Naruto addressed the white Zetsu army with methods they couldn't counter. "Haoshoku no Haki, Emperor's Domain," he announced, drawing his sword and channeling Conqueror's Haki through the blade. The technique that followed wasn't just an attack, but a declaration of authority over the battlefield itself. As Naruto swung his sword in a complete circle, the air shimmered with visible distortion, a wave of pure willpower expanding outward from his position. When this wave contacted the advancing white Zetsu, something unprecedented occurred. Rather than simply being damaged or repelled, the artificial beings momentarily froze before dropping to their knees, their constructed consciousness overwhelmed by a will far stronger than their own. More than half the attacking force was neutralized in that single technique, not destroyed, but rendered temporarily immobile as their artificial minds struggled to process the overwhelming dominance imposed upon them. "What is this?" Obito demanded, his single visible eye widening behind his mask as he witnessed the mass incapacitation. What technique could affect so many simultaneously? "Not a technique," Naruto replied, his sword still gleaming with the residual energy of his Haki. "A manifestation of will. something that exists outside the chakra system, your Zetsu were designed to counter. The battle escalated as Obito recognized the unprecedented threat Naruto represented. Abandoning his usual calculated approach, the masked Uchiha launched a direct assault, his Mangekyo Sharingan granting him access to techniques that could warp the very fabric of space. What followed was a demonstration of the perfect synthesis Naruto had achieved between his two lifetimes. When Obito's Kamui attempted to draw him into the dimensional void, Naruto countered not with chakra-based resistance, but with a precise application of armament haki that temporarily solidified the boundary between dimensions. Interesting, Obito observed, adjusting his strategy. Your abilities don't follow the conventional rules of ninjutsu, genjutsu, or taijutsu, but they still require concentration and direction. Taking advantage of this insight, he launched a diversionary attack against Nagato's life support systems while simultaneously targeting Sasuke with a complex genjutsu designed to turn him against his allies. It was in this moment of crisis that Naruto demonstrated why he had once been considered one of the most formidable pirates in another world entirely. Rather than dividing his attention or prioritizing one threat over another, he executed a combination technique that addressed both simultaneously. "Divine departure, red-haired tempest," he announced, his voice carrying that unmistakable weight of authority that had once commanded respect across the Grand Line. The sword technique that followed wasn't a single slash, but a complex pattern that created multiple cutting waves of Haki-infused energy. Each wave was precisely calibrated, some directed to intercept the white Zetsu approaching Nagato, others specifically frequency modulated to disrupt the chakra flow of Obito's genjutsu before it could fully affect Sasuke. Most remarkably, Naruto performed this multifaceted technique while simultaneously engaging Obito directly, using the predictive capabilities of advanced observation haki to anticipate and counter the Uchiha's space-time manipulations. "Your Kamui creates a pocket dimension connected to our reality through your Mangekyo," Naruto observed as he maneuvered through Obito's defenses. But dimensional boundaries respond to willpower as much as physical laws. To demonstrate this principle, he executed a technique that would have seemed impossible by conventional shinobi standards. As Obito attempted to phase through an attack, Naruto channeled Conqueror's haki directly into the dimensional boundary itself, temporarily solidifying it and catching the Uchiha mid-phase. The result was devastating. Obito, accustomed to passing untouched through any attack, suddenly found himself materialized at precisely the moment Naruto's haki-infused blade connected. The cutting edge, enhanced with the internal destruction properties of advanced armament haki, bypassed his external defenses and disrupted the chakra network within. "Impossible," Obito gasped, blood seeping through his mask as he staggered backward. "No technique should be able to affect Kamui while it's active." "As I said," Naruto replied calmly, "it's not a technique in the way you understand them. It's a direct expression of will imposing itself on reality, something that transcends the boundaries between dimensions because willpower itself is universal." The battle concluded not with Obito's death but with his retreat, severely injured and forced to abandon his immediate objective of acquiring Nagato's Rinnegan. It was a significant victory, but not a definitive one. The masked Uchiha would recover, adapt, and return with new strategies. In the aftermath, as medical ninja stabilized Nagato's condition for transport back to Allied headquarters, the former Akatsuki leader made a decision that would fundamentally alter the conflict's trajectory. "My Rinnegan is too dangerous to remain in this world," he stated weakly. "Madara, or Obito as you call him, will never stop pursuing it. As long as these eyes exist, the Ten Tails revival remains possible." "What are you suggesting?" Naruto asked, though he suspected the answer. "The Rinnegan must be sealed away permanently," Nagato replied. "And I have a technique that can accomplish this, one that requires my life as the final component of the seal." Despite Naruto's objections, Nagato was resolute. "This is my choice," he insisted. "My contribution to the understanding we've discussed. Sometimes peace requires sacrifice, not imposed on others, but freely chosen by oneself." The sealing ritual that followed was witnessed only by Naruto, Konan, and Sasuke. Using techniques developed from the original Sage of Six Paths teachings, Nagato transferred his Rinnegan into a specialized sealing scroll before using his remaining life force to activate a dimensional lock that would make the eyes inaccessible to anyone in the physical world. His final words to Naruto carried the weight of a passing legacy. You've shown that understanding doesn't have to come through shared pain. It can come through shared hope. Continue to demonstrate that truth, Naruto Uzumaki, you who have already transcended one lifetime's limitations. The loss of the Rinnegan represented a critical setback to Obito's plans, but not their abandonment. Intelligence gathered in subsequent weeks indicated he was pursuing alternative approaches, attempting to synthesize a substitute for the Rinnegan using Hashirama Senju's cells combined with his own Uchiha DNA. Simultaneously, reports described increased activity at the mountain graveyard hideout, where remnants of the tailed beast chakra were being artificially combined to create a partial Ten Tails revival. He's getting desperate, Naruto observed during a war council meeting, moving forward with an incomplete plan rather than adapting to changing circumstances. That creates both danger and opportunity. Danger because desperation makes him unpredictable, Shikamaru noted, and opportunity because hasty implementation increases the likelihood of exploitable flaws, Naruto concluded. The strategy they developed focused on forcing Obito to reveal his position through a calculated feint, making him believe the allied forces had discovered a method to track the unique chakra signature of the Gedo statue. This false intelligence, carefully leaked through channels Obito monitored, prompted exactly the response they had anticipated, a premature attempt to activate an incomplete Ten Tails. The final confrontation took place at the mountain graveyard, where Obito had established his primary base of operations. The allied shinobi forces arrived not as a massive army, but as specialized strike teams, each targeting specific aspects of the revival ritual. At the center of this operation was Naruto's elite unit, the original Red Division, supplemented by key individuals including Sasuke, Sakura, Gaara, and representatives from each of the 5 great villages. Their objective wasn't merely to prevent the Ten Tails revival, but to address the fundamental philosophy that had driven Obito's actions. As they penetrated the outer defenses of the hideout, Naruto sensed something that gave him pause, a familiar presence he hadn't encountered in this lifetime, but recognized instantly from his previous existence. There's someone else here, he informed his team as they approached the central chamber. Someone with immense power, different from Obito's, but equally dangerous. His suspicion was confirmed when they breached the final barrier and found not just Obito in the partially formed Ten Tails, but a third figure, an elderly man connected to the Gedo statue through what appeared to be chakra receivers, similar to those Nagato had used. Madara Uchiha Naruto identified, recognizing the legendary shinobi from historical descriptions and his own intuitive understanding of powerful presences. The real one. Impressive, the elderly Uchiha acknowledged, studying Naruto with interest. Few would recognize me in this state, reduced to maintaining my life through artificial means while awaiting proper resurrection. This unexpected development created a momentary pause even among the prepared allied forces. The true Madara Uchiha, not dead as history recorded, but preserved through unknown techniques, represented a threat beyond their planning. Obito, his mask now discarded to reveal his scarred face, stood atop the enormous Gedo statue. Your arrival is premature, Naruto Uzumaki. The Ten Tails revival isn't complete, but it's sufficient to demonstrate the futility of your resistance. With those words, he activated the final seal, causing the statue to convulse violently as it absorbed the remaining tailed beast chakra fragments. The transformation that followed was grotesque, not the complete Ten Tails of legend, but a malformed approximation with enormous power nonetheless. Even incomplete, its chakra exceeds anything in recorded history, Kakashi observed tensely. This isn't something we can defeat through conventional means. Naruto studied the monstrosity with the calm assessment of someone who had faced godlike entities before. In his previous life as Shanks, he had stood against creatures that could destroy islands with casual gestures. The principles remained the same: identify the core vulnerability, negate overwhelming advantages, and strike with precision rather than matching power directly. The Ten Tails isn't fully conscious yet, he noted. It's being controlled through Obito and Madara's combined will. If we disrupt that connection, the creature becomes directionless, dangerous but unfocused. And how do we disrupt a connection maintained by two of the most powerful Uchiha in history? Sasuke questioned, his own Sharingan analyzing the chakra flows between the controllers and their creation. Naruto's response carried the absolute confidence that had once made him one of the most respected pirate captains on the Grand Line. We remind them that even the strongest can be challenged by one with absolute conviction. With that, he stepped forward alone, his hand resting casually on his sword hilt. The gesture was eerily familiar to those who had known him longest, the same relaxed readiness that had preceded his most decisive actions. Obito Uchiha. Madara Uchiha, he addressed both controllers directly. You believe the world requires restructuring through forced illusion. That humanity cannot achieve peace through its own evolution. That control is preferable to choice. His voice carried across the chamber without shouting, each word weighted with the authority of someone who had witnessed the rise and fall of systems across 2 lifetimes. I've seen your vision played out before, in another world entirely. I've watched governments impose absolute justice that was nothing more than absolute control. I've seen the suffering created when people's choices are taken from them in the name of order. As he spoke, Naruto began channeling energy, not overtly, not as a visible display, but as a steadily building presence that those with sensory abilities could feel accumulating around him. The infinite Tsukuyomi isn't peace. It's surrender. Not harmony, but uniformity. Not understanding, but oblivion. Madara's aged features formed a dismissive smile. Philosophical objections from a child. How predictable. The Ten Tails doesn't care about your perspective, boy. Perhaps not, Naruto acknowledged, but it will care about this. With those words, he released the full force of his conqueror's haki, not as an unfocused wave, but as a precisely directed beam aimed at the connection points between the controllers and the Ten Tails. The invisible force of pure, dominant will hit with such concentrated intensity that the air itself seemed to distort along its path. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Ten Tails' body convulsed violently as the foreign willpower disrupted the control mechanisms Obito and Madara had established. Even more significantly, both Uchiha visibly staggered, their own formidable wills momentarily overwhelmed by something they had never encountered before. What is this technique? Madara demanded, genuine surprise breaking through his composed exterior. This isn't chakra. As I told Obito during our last encounter, Naruto replied, drawing his sword in a fluid motion, it's not a technique at all. It's pure will made manifest, something that exists outside your understanding of ninjutsu, genjutsu, or taijutsu. Taking advantage of the momentary disruption, the allied forces launched their coordinated attack. Each specialized team targeted specific aspects of the ritual chamber, some focusing on the chakra receivers connecting Madara to the Gedo statue, others working to contain the increasingly erratic Ten Tails, while a third group engaged the white Zetsu guards that swarmed to protect their masters. At the center of this chaos, Naruto faced Obito directly, their confrontation representing the philosophical core of the conflict. Your entire perspective is built on a single traumatic moment, Naruto observed as they engaged in high-speed combat, his haki-infused sword meeting Obito's chakra-enhanced staff. You watched Rin die and decided the entire world was irredeemable, one data point that overrode everything else you had experienced. You know nothing of my pain, Obito snarled, his Mangekyo Sharingan blazing as he launched a series of space-time distortions designed to trap or dismember his opponent. Naruto moved through these dimensional disruptions with uncanny precision, his observation haki allowing him to perceive the fabric of space-time itself as it warped around him. I know more than you realize, he replied calmly. In my previous life, I watched my captain and closest friend executed by the government we opposed. I've seen crew members die protecting innocent people from tyranny. I've experienced loss that would break most men. As he spoke, Naruto executed a complex combination of sword techniques that forced Obito into increasingly defensive postures. Each slash was precisely calculated, not to kill, but to systematically dismantle the Uchiha's offensive capabilities. The difference between us isn't our capacity for pain, Naruto continued. It's what we chose to do with it. You allowed your suffering to justify imposing more suffering. I chose to honor those I lost by protecting the freedom they valued. This philosophical exchange was more than mere conversation. It represented a fundamental challenge to the conviction that had driven Obito for decades. And conviction, as Naruto well understood from both lifetimes, was the true source of strength for those at the highest levels of power. The physical battle reached its climax as Naruto executed his most advanced technique, a perfect synthesis of everything he had mastered across two existences. Divine Departure, Pirate King's Legacy, he announced, his sword glowing with the combined energies of armament haki, conqueror's haki, and the perfectly harmonized chakra of both himself and Kurama. The technique that followed wasn't just a physical attack, but a comprehensive assertion of will upon reality itself. The slash created a visible distortion that cut not just through physical space, but through the dimensional boundaries Obito manipulated with Kamui. When the technique connected, Obito found himself in an unprecedented situation. His Mangekyo Sharingan techniques neutralized, his connection to the Ten Tails severed, and his physical body damaged beyond his regenerative capabilities. Impossible, he gasped, collapsing to one knee as blood flowed from wounds that defied his understanding. No shinobi should be able to counter Kamui so completely. I'm not just a shinobi, Naruto replied simply, lowering his sword. Just as you're not just an Uchiha, we're the sum of our choices, Obito, and it's never too late to make different ones. This moment of philosophical resolution was interrupted by a surge of malevolent chakra from across the chamber. Madara, recognizing that the situation was deteriorating, had activated a contingency plan, using the remaining connection to the Gedo statue to transfer his consciousness directly into the incomplete Ten Tails. The transformation that followed was nightmarish, not the legendary Sage of Six Paths ascension, but a corrupted version that merged Madara's will with the raw power of the tailed beasts in a chaotic, unstable fusion. You see, the transformed Madara called, his voice distorted and multi-layered as the Ten Tails' influence manifested in his appearance. This is the inevitable result of your freedom, chaos, and destruction. Only through control can there be true peace. The power radiating from this merged entity was unlike anything the Allied forces had prepared for. A combination of the Ten Tails' raw chakra with Madara's strategic genius and Uchiha abilities. The pressure alone caused fissures to appear in the chamber's reinforced walls. Naruto assessed this new threat with the calm evaluation that had characterized Shanks in his most challenging confrontations. The merged Madara represented power beyond conventional measurement, similar to facing an admiral and sea king simultaneously in his previous life. Everyone fall back to position 3, he commanded, his voice carrying that unmistakable authority that brooked no argument. Gaara, establish your sand barrier at the secondary perimeter. Sasuke, coordinate the evacuation of injured personnel. As his allies executed these instructions with practiced efficiency, Naruto turned to face the transformed Madara alone, his posture shifting into the perfectly balanced stance that had once made him legendary across the Grand Line. You intend to face me alone? Madara questioned, genuine curiosity in his distorted voice. Even with your unusual abilities, you must recognize the power disparity. Power disparities don't determine outcomes, Naruto replied simply. Conviction does, and my conviction that people deserve freedom rather than controlled illusion is absolute. With those words, he initiated what would later be described in Allied records as the most extraordinary display of combat capability in shinobi history. Drawing on everything he had mastered across 2 lifetimes, Naruto engaged Madara in a battle that transcended conventional understanding of ninjutsu. When Madara launched truth-seeking balls, manifestations of all chakra natures combined with natural energy, Naruto countered not with equivalent techniques, but with precisely applied armament haki that temporarily negated their compositional advantage. When the transformed Uchiha attempted to trap him in a limbo clone attack, creating duplicates in a dimension slightly offset from the physical world, Naruto's advanced observation haki allowed him to perceive and counter these normally invisible threats. Most significantly, when Madara attempted to initiate the infinite Tsukuyomi on a smaller scale, using his merged Ten Tails eye to cast a localized version of the technique, Naruto demonstrated something unprecedented. Conqueror's Haki applied directly to Genjutsu itself. Emperor's Proclamation, he announced, releasing a focused burst of Haoshoku no Haki that disrupted the chakra patterns forming the Genjutsu framework. Impossible, Madara snarled, genuine shock breaking through his composed exterior. No force should be able to disrupt the infinite Tsukuyomi once initiated. Your technique operates on the principle that your will, amplified by the Ten Tails chakra, can override the collective will of humanity, Naruto explained calmly, maintaining his stance. But will against will is precisely where I have the advantage. To demonstrate this principle, he channeled his most refined application of Conqueror's Haki, not as an offensive technique, but as a protective field extending outward to encompass his allies. Within this domain, Madara's influence quite literally could not penetrate. The battle reached its climax when Madara, recognizing that his conventional advantages were being systematically neutralized, attempted his most desperate gambit, a technique designed to merge dimensions themselves, forcing reality to conform to his vision rather than imposing his vision upon reality. If I cannot create the perfect illusion, he declared, then I will remake reality itself into the perfect world. The dimensional distortion that followed was visible even to non-sensors, a warping of space-time that began pulling fragments of alternate realities into their dimension. The very fabric of their world began to tear as Madara's technique threatened to collapse multiple realities into a single, controlled construct. It was in this moment of ultimate crisis that Naruto executed the technique that would define his legacy across both lifetimes, a perfect synthesis of everything he had been as Shanks and everything he had become as Naruto. Sovereign's judgment, he announced, his voice carrying that unmistakable weight of absolute authority. The technique that followed wasn't just an attack, but a fundamental assertion of natural law against artificial manipulation. Drawing his sword one final time, Naruto channeled a combination of all three Haki types, perfectly harmonized with both his own chakra and Kurama's, into a single, definitive slash. The blade didn't just cut through Madara's physical form. It severed the connections between dimensions that his technique had established, restored the natural boundaries between realities, and most critically, separated his consciousness from the Ten Tails' power. The backlash was catastrophic. As dimensional stability reasserted itself, the energy released created a shockwave that leveled the entire mountain graveyard complex. Only Naruto's final protective technique, a dome of pure armament Haki reinforced with Kurama's chakra, prevented casualties among the allied forces. When the dust settled, what remained of Madara lay broken and diminished, an elderly man once again separated from both the Ten Tails and the artificial systems that had sustained his prolonged life. The incomplete Ten Tails itself had destabilized, fragmenting back into components of tailed beast chakra that dissipated without a controlling will to bind them. Naruto approached the dying Uchiha with neither triumph nor animosity, but with the quiet respect one accords a worthy adversary. You fought for what you believed would create peace, he acknowledged, kneeling beside Madara. The flaw wasn't in your desire for a better world, but in believing it could only come through control rather than choice. Madara studied him with fading eyes that still held remarkable clarity. You're not just the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, he observed. You're something I've never encountered before, something outside the system I thought encompassed all possibilities. I'm someone who has lived twice, Naruto replied simply, and learned in both lives that true strength comes from protecting freedom, not restricting it. As Madara's life ebbed away, he offered one final observation that would be recorded in Allied histories. Perhaps Hashirama wasn't entirely wrong about the will of fire after all. It just took a different kind of flame to demonstrate its truth. The aftermath of this final confrontation brought changes that resonated across the shinobi world. With both Obito and Madara defeated, the immediate threat of the infinite Tsukuyomi had been neutralized. More significantly, the unprecedented cooperation between formerly hostile villages had demonstrated possibilities few had imagined. In the months that followed, The Allied shinobi forces evolved from a wartime necessity into a permanent diplomatic structure, not replacing individual villages, but providing a framework for ongoing collaboration and conflict resolution. At the center of these changes was Naruto Uzumaki, whose dual nature as both reincarnated pirate captain and shinobi leader uniquely positioned him to guide this transformation. Having experienced both the rigid hierarchy of the world government in his previous life and the fragmented rivalries of the shinobi system in his current one, he understood the pitfalls of both extremes. The strongest systems, he explained during the formal establishment of the Allied Council, are those that protect individual freedom while fostering collective responsibility, not through forced compliance, but through demonstrated value. This philosophy, protecting freedom rather than restricting it, became the guiding principle of the new era. Villages maintained their autonomy while participating in collaborative structures that addressed shared challenges. The Jinchuriki, once viewed as weapons or burdens, were recognized as individuals with unique perspectives and contributions. For Naruto himself, the conclusion of the war marked not an ending but a transition. At 18, he had already lived more than most shinobi would in several lifetimes. He had died as one legend and become another, the red-haired Shanks and the red flash of Konoha, merging into something greater than either individual identity. When Tsunade finally retired as Hokage years later, there was no question about her successor. Naruto accepted the position not as the culmination of a lifelong ambition, but as another form of the responsibility he had carried across two existences, protecting those who entrusted themselves to his care. His inauguration ceremony was unlike any previous Hokages. Representatives from all 5 great villages attended, along with delegates from smaller nations that had joined the Allied framework. The traditional Hokage robes were supplemented with a distinctive personal touch, a red haori reminiscent of the captain's coat he had worn in another lifetime. As he stood atop the Hokage monument, looking out over both Konoha and the representatives of a united shinobi world, Naruto reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. The memories of 2 lives, one ended in sacrifice, the other built on that foundation, merged into a single, continuous narrative of growth and purpose. "In my first life," he said quietly to Kakashi, who stood beside him, "I protected freedom by standing against those who would restrict it. In this one, I've had the privilege of helping build something that actively promotes it. Different approaches to the same fundamental principle. In which life do you consider more successful?" The former copy ninja asked curiously. Naruto smiled, that disarming, charismatic smile that had won allies across 2 worlds. "They're not separate successes or failures. They're a continuous journey. What I learned as Shanks made me a better Naruto. What I've experienced as Naruto would have made me a better Shanks." As the ceremony concluded and the assembled dignitaries dispersed, Naruto remained atop the monument, watching the sunset paint Konoha in shades of gold and crimson. For a moment, if he narrowed his eyes just right, the village rooftops almost resembled waves on an endless ocean, and the distant forest trees could pass for the silhouette of an island on the horizon. "Different world," he murmured, echoing words he had spoken years earlier. "Same principles." His hand rested comfortably on the hilt of his sword, the physical bridge between his past and present. The blade had been through as much as he had, evolving from a simple weapon into a symbol that represented the perfect synthesis of 2 existences. As darkness fell and stars appeared overhead, Naruto allowed himself a moment of pure contentment. He had died protecting freedom in one world and helped establish it more firmly in another. Across 2 lifetimes, he had remained true to the core conviction that defined him in both, that the greatest strength came not from dominating others, but from empowering them to choose their own paths. The red-haired Shanks and Naruto Uzumaki, pirate captain and Hoge, Yonko, and Jinchuriki had merged into something unique and powerful. Not just a reincarnation, but a continuation. Not merely a second chance, but a deeper expression of the same indomitable spirit. Different seas, different challenges, same unwavering will, and in both worlds the same legacy, the red dawn of a new era.
And that's how red-haired Shanks's reincarnation changed the entire ninja world forever. If this epic crossover blew your mind, smash that like button and let me know in the comments, what other ideas would you want to see? Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible what-if scenarios that will make you see your favorite anime in a whole new way. Until next time, keep that spirit alive.